Yes, guys, you know what time it is. It's your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Spurs fan. And today we bring you the tactical breakdown of what went wrong against Brentford, why we did not win the game. We do it after every single game, so hopefully you guys enjoy it. Jack, how are you keeping, my man?
Keeping well, Dave. This one will be interesting because I feel like it's not as much, us, drawing lines as, on the tactics board, Dave. It's not as much, getting all technical. It's really us actually breaking down just a lot of maybe red flags, a lot of things that maybe, we're kind of noticing that maybe the Spurs team we thought maybe had overcome, the Spurs team had kind of, gotten rid of maybe. And I think it's just a few big red flags that we're going to look at for Brentford. And hopefully we just don't see them come up again against Leicester. But looking forward to this conversation, Dave. Maybe not the best sort of conversation, but definitely going to be a good one.
No, it's not. And after we finish this today, we're done and dusted with the Brentford result and we move on for the Leicester game at the weekend. But look, there's definitely some old habits creeping in that I definitely think we need to probably highlight and talk about for sure. But before we get into it, let's see who is in the building in the Irish Hotspur Army. We have Sue Smith. She says, hashtag Harris Army, hashtag Kais. Big up, Sue. I hope you're keeping
really
well
to see
the building. Dermot, got your missed call. Look, I was busy all day today from the morning till about 10, 20 minutes ago till I got in the door. So as soon as I finish this, I will ring your brother. He says, ladies and gentlemen, it's here. Same Spurs time, same Spurs place as the best duo in town. Break down the game for us. So let's all get together and shout, come on, you Spurs. Absolutely love
you, Dermot.
that.
Love you, brother.
Regular says, afternoon, everyone. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, my man. Dermot says, live from Kildare, Ireland. He is the biggest Harry Kane fan in the world. He's the #1 Irish Spurs fan. David Harry Kane, Irish Hotspur Harris. And his partner in crime, live from New York. From Brooklyn, New York, he is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of the Stats Girl, and he is Jack's son, Statsman Kaniki.
I'll walk in cloak and robe next time, Dermot. You got to announce me. I'll get the cloak and robe on.
Big up, Dermot. Big up. On your bike, Scott says, big up, lads. Big up on your bike, Scott. Dermot says, David, I'm coming for you, brother, on FIFA. Get better all the time. Dermot, I actually haven't played it in a few days, to be honest with you. So you probably would beat me right now. You probably would beat me right now, lad. Catman Jess says, big up David and Jack, big up the Harris Army and the Flat Cap Army, big up Catman. I hope you're keeping well. Good to see you in the building. We also have Jack Merry says, big up David for the Irish Tottenham. Big up, Jack. Really appreciate that. I hope you're keeping well, brother. Ryan says, do you think Theo Hernandez from Milan will come to Spurs if we get?
Oh, that would be incredible. I mean, you're talking about maybe the best, probably best left wing back maybe in the world, maybe apart from Alphonso Davies, maybe. So that would be a dream, but I don't see it happen. I think he even signed a new contract over there as well.
Yeah, would be a dream, Ryan, but doesn't look like it's gonna happen, my man. Omari Edit says, good day, everyone. Come on, you Spurs. Big up, Omari. I hope you're keeping well. Good to see you in the building. We have Lewis 2705 says, up the legends. Big up, Lewis. I hope you're keeping well, my man. And then we also have Miss Yowati, big up, boys. Meet up with friends for a game today. Glad to spend this wait with you. Well, look, man, this is why we're doing this early today, because we kind of gambled that everybody would want to watch the City Real Madrid match. So we said we'll do this early today for everybody out there. So happy days. So I guess we kind of might have got that judgment call right. Big yourself up, man.
I think he's a new member as well, so big up him as well.
It's Michael that was on last night.
Oh, it is Michael. Okay.
Yeah,
I recognize the picture. Big up, Michael. Good to see you in here.
Big up, Michael. And just quickly, it's great to see that channel badge beside yours and Catman Jess and Dermot's name. It's great to see them. And Donald O'Matney says, look, it's a case of Antonio assessing the game quicker than he does and then changing tactics. He's leaving tactics and substitutes too late. Well, look, Donald, stay with us. Have a look and see what you think our assessment is and let us know whether you agree, disagree with it. Do let us know. But big up, Donald. Good to see you in. Who else have we got? Got Nick in the building. Big up. He says, good to see you, lads. Missed the Manscaped ad yesterday. I hope it went over well. Yeah, people seem to enjoy it. People seem to find it funny. So we'll wait and see, Nick. We'll wait and see. But big up. Really appreciate you putting everything together and finalizing it, my man. Really do appreciate it. Big up, Nick. Ryan says, I'm new to football, but why do people say Mane is better left wing than Son when he has more goals this season? Look, Mane is a terrific player, to be fair, but look, for me, I'm always going to be biased. I say Son is better. But there is an argument there, to be fair. Missy White says, by the way, it's Michael. Yeah, exactly. No, we knew, my man. I knew. Don't worry. I remember absolutely everything, Michael. Big yourself up, brother. Big yourself up. But look, Jack, I suppose we won't bother hanging around. We'll get straight into it, my man. So look, let's cover some of these match stats and stuff before we start getting into some of the screenshots and pictures we have of what we felt went wrong.
Yes, Dave, let's get over it. Let's get through Brentford, where Brentford had 15 shots, Spurs had 9, and there were 2 shots on target in the entire 90 minutes from either team. So really, honestly, was it last game, I think I recall you saying, Dave, maybe the most boring game you've ever, witnessed of this season. There are definitely some contenders for that, but maybe this one took the title. 2 big chances created, again, by Brentford. Absolute zilch created by Spurs, which is disappointing. 508 passes by Spurs, 393 by Brentford, 139 in the opposition half, where Spurs had 268 in the opposition half. I don't really know what to draw from this, apart from the fact that Spurs just created absolutely nothing and just, couldn't even, register a big chance, even, 0 shots on target, sure. But I think what's more alarming is even to have, 0 big chances, because a big chance usually ends up with a shot on target, but most often or not, it's just at least shows that maybe you had one opportunity that, the stats people would probably say was, one that you should have scored. But pretty alarming, I must say. Pretty alarming.
Do you know what, Jack? I look at the possession stats, very similar to the West Ham game in terms of the amount of possession we had compared to them. I look at the passes and the passes into opposition half. They're actually double than what they were last week against Brighton. Last week, they were absolutely horrendous. Look, you look at the possession stats. You look at the possession stats that we had today, very, very similar to the West Ham possession stats. But we didn't do anything with it. We done nothing in the final third. We didn't create any chances. All of that possession was Eric Dyer in the first half taking 10 touches on the ball and walking at walking pace. That's what a lot of that possession is passing it around the back line. Look, I'm happy that the passes in the opposition half have more or less doubled, which is what we wanted to see, because last week was absolutely shambolic. I think it was 83 passes in the opposition final third last week, and I think it was 100, and it was in the low hundreds in terms of passes in as well. So it was absolutely shocking. Look, 9 shots, but none on target. That is not good enough. It is not good enough. You look at Brentford, 15 shots, 2 on target. I mean, they also rattled the bar. I don't think that counts as a shot on target, and I think they hit the post, which I don't actually think counts as a shot on target either, which is madness. But look, a lot of Brentford's shots came from corner kicks, Jack, came from set pieces.
I think all their best chances came from, I think maybe one decent chance they might have had from open play, but I do recall it happening after a really bad mistake made by a particular Spurs player. But I think all of their good chances, Dave, came from, set pieces, came from, when the ball is dead, so it's just, again, something we'll probably highlight a bit later. But it's nice to see, like you covered, Dave, it's nice to see that the passes in the opposition half are a bit better. It's also maybe nice to see that it's actually over half, the passes that were completed in total, were in the opposition half, which is maybe a bit better to see as well. But I don't really know. I don't really have much to judge on this, because Dave, these match stats are only getting better and better each week, so maybe we'll start to see a trend.
But Jack, like this for me is why it doesn't come down to tactics. You look last week, half the amount of passes in the opposition half the amount of passes, and not a great load of possession. You look at this week, okay, you'd argue that definitely in the second half the players put in a better effort than what they did last week. And it just comes down to player effort for me. I mean, look, you look at it, people say, oh, well, the tactics didn't work, this, that, and the other. More possession, more passes, and more passes in the opposition half. The difference is what we've done with the possession, with the players on the pitch, which is absolutely fuck all. 9 shots, none on target, compared to Brentford's 15 with 2 on target. So it's more. It comes down to more for me, which is what I was saying over the last couple of days. It comes down to player effort and their decision-making on the pitch, rather than the tactics.
No, Absolutely, Dave. But let's maybe line up, these two teams. Originally, when it was put out, it looked like a 4-3-3. No one really knew who that Gattos guy that came into the team for Brentford really was. You look at, maybe that lineup, they've basically gone for something similar that, Brighton did. They basically tried to overload the midfield with three players there. They have Janelt, I believe Jensen, and then Ericsson, two up front, kind of similar to Brighton as well, because I think Brighton did like McAllister and kind of Embuemo, or not Embuemo, Mwepu as their other kind of forward, where this time it's Embuemo and Tony up top, a back three. I think maybe what's a bit different is Janssen almost was like man marking Harry Kane.
Okay.
You could say, like, was he even a part of the back three at times? It almost just felt like wherever Harry Kane went, he went. They did go for a bit of an unorthodox back three players that I haven't seen before in that team. And then Rico Henry out wide with that guy Gattos, who will look at the average positions, after this, and you'll really see what they were trying to do. But another team that's matched us with a back five, Dave, or a back three. And to be honest, quite successful in a similar formation, I must say, to the likes of Brighton to an extent.
Yeah. Do you know what, Jack? I think they were successful because of our decision making in the final third. Look, it's not like we weren't
Just
in the
saying they
final
went
third.
for a similar, kind of
Yeah.
look or a similar sort of shape that, Brighton
No,
did. Yeah.
no, 100%. Look, they went to match our wing backs. I think the whole idea was to get our push their wing backs onto ours and get ours going backwards. Look, the three in midfield, it definitely played a difference, outnumbered our two. But look, I know we've struggled at times against a three in midfield, but we've also bet teams with a three in midfield, so it's not really that much of an excuse for me, to be honest with you. And then they go two up top, and I think, look, Ivan Toney, more so from set pieces, absolutely ridiculed us. And then Embuemo was just the legs in around Ivan Toney anytime if he could get a flick on and hold it up. But look, our formation, it's never going to change. I just say this to people now. Don't expect it to change for the next couple of games. I think Antonio Conte will use this 3-4-3 for the running. I think it'd be madness for him to change it up.
Yeah, I think it would be madness for him to change it up. But maybe I think we can look into, kind of the where the area is attacked. But just want to just say hello to, a member as well coming into the building, Vince Vega. Good to see Vince as
Big
well.
up, Vince.
Saying not happy we're throwing away four to the scum. Listen, it was just in our hands and we just let it slip right through the hands. It's just classic, almost slipped through like water, going through our hands. We really just didn't know what to do with such a good opportunity, Vince. And especially as well with all the momentum in our direction, everything just basically saying Spurs are, headed towards, getting fourth. And then all of a sudden we just go to a grinding halt of momentum, my man.
It's because we're playing scared. We're playing. Look, for me, you slap West Ham, you slap Villa, you slap Newcastle. Okay, there's variables to it. Yes, they may have come out a little bit more than these other last two teams we played. But the difference is you go to that Newcastle game, you go to that Aston Villa game at half time. I think it was Aston Villa we were one up, or was it Newcastle? One of the games Aston Villa we were one up, and Newcastle it was level going in at half time. But the difference is we found the answers in the second half, and that's because we were chasing. Soon as we were in top four, Brighton, Brentford, lack of urgency, lack of dedication, lack of doing the basics right, lack of doing things quickly to try and break them down. And that's all it comes down to. It doesn't come down to tactics. It just comes down to players' effort.
Yeah,
their mentality has changed since we got into the top four.
Yeah, spot on, Dave. Absolutely spot on. But Vince, at least apart from that, good to see you, my man. Good to see you in here. Dave, this is kind of where more or less each team, tried to attack. This is where, each direction of their attacks went. Majority of the game actually really wasn't played through the middle, but you could say that it was a bit evened out for Spurs with 32% this time going down the right-hand side and 39% going down the left-hand side. Yeah. Last time out, I think it was much more heavily the right-hand side that we went down when we had came up against Brighton. But this time we went down Sessegnon's side, just a fair, just a tiny bit more, you could say. And then in the case of Brentford, like a lot of teams seem to target, our right-hand side, a fair bit more. And then they also, I guess, targeted the other wing to an extent as well. Anything to draw from this, Dave, or maybe we move on to the average positions, or maybe I think the interesting part, though, is, and this is a bit of a surprise for me, is the one big difference from last time with Brighton is that we actually ended up ourselves not attacking down the right-hand side as much.
Do you know what, Jack? 100%. And the reason why is because Emerson is not good enough on the football to be able to build out or build up anything down that right-hand side. So I think, look, we put Session out there and hope that we can get further up the pitch, which credit we did. But what the guy done when he was up that far was absolutely ridiculous. I think he gave away the ball nearly every single time, struggled to beat his man, struggled to put in any sort of decent cross of note. So although we attacked down the left-hand side and we did get up that pitch, at the end of the day, in the final third, we didn't do anything with it. You look at Brentford, how much they've attacked down the wings. Jack, I'm not surprised because at times they were happy to get the ball down the wing and just balloon it off one of our players and look for a corner kick. That's all they wanted. They just wanted corner kicks.
That's where the corners are.
Trouble us from set pieces.
Yeah, that's where the corners are, Dave. That's probably a really good way to put it, actually, to be fair. But I think we move on maybe to the average positions here. With Brentford, what you really look at it, Dave, is, and I'll kind of, label them a bit later because you can actually maybe, do it. Maybe this is a better way to look at it, to be fair, actually, because some of the Brentford players are, labeled. But, Gattos is supposed to be playing right wing back. You can actually see him tucking in, more into the midfield. And then they have a right-sided center back in Roslev, who's actually just playing a bit wider. It's really interesting to see Gattos, kind of just tuck in more. Maybe that's because he knows that Sonny, ends up, kind of following in a bit more. He knows Harry Kane is going to hang out in this area. And then with the lack of threat that Sessegnon was offering, perhaps they were just thinking, you know what, maybe just leave Sessegnon out there and see what he can do with it, with that space being offered to him. But you see Janelt, who's basically that holding midfielder, almost like dropping into, the back three or the back five at times with his average shape. And then you do look at their other center back as well, who basically was just sitting on the line. Rico Henry was their highest fullback, certainly probably helping out in the attack. Eriksson sitting right next to Tony and Mbuemo. Spurs it's actually really similar, and it's been consistently similar. The one thing is that Harry Kane is actually a bit closer to Højbjerg and Bentancur than we've seen before. Perhaps because Harry Kane was getting maybe more frustrated, maybe because he knew that since Pontus Jansson was almost man marking him, he had to move around, maybe drop in even further, a bit more on average. But I don't know, Dave, I don't know which one you prefer to look at, but, I guess we offer both here. But for these average positions, what maybe do you take of note? I guess I noticed is that, Brentford, they really just sacrificed any sort of width, defensively and, just piled everybody in the middle.
100%, Jack. Look, we'll look at the next one. This right here tells us everything you need to know. People asking why Harry Kane wasn't dropping deep. Well, there's your answer. I mean, they completely just blocked up the middle. How far? My question is, how far do you want the guy?
Well, it showed that he even was trying to drop deep. I mean, look at his average position. He's trying to drop deep as well.
No, he is trying to drop deep, right? But my question is how much further do you want him to drop deep? Do you want him to drop back onto the 18-yard box? Look, at the end of the day, honestly, Brentford came up with the answers. They blocked up the middle. So anytime any one of our players were to drop in there, whether it be Kane, Son, or Kulu, they could not get a hold of the ball. Look, we've even seen Kulu in there at times. But what was happening, Jack, is if it was Kulu or Kane, the two people I've seen trying to get in there to hold up the ball, there are three players around them. But we weren't getting enough players forward to be able to support them. So even if he did hold it up, it was just being taken off him. And Brentford done that very well. And look, I think you're going to see, especially teams maybe in the bottom half of the table, they're going to do this against Spurs. They're going to block up the middle. But that's when you've got to go out wide. In the first half, we consistently were looking to play in the middle, and we just, the passes wasn't there. And that's why we ended up doing so much around the back. But we weren't also doing it quick enough to try and feed the guys in the middle. And this is what I'm talking about, Jack. Like, with Dyer and the amount of touches, which we are going to get onto.
Yeah.
But if Dyer's number 15 there for us, right? Now he takes all them touches. What options does he have in the middle when Brentford are just shutting up their shop, squeezing the middle? What options does he have but passing it across the back line, recycling, doing it 5, 6, 7 touches? But in the second half, when he done one touch and pass, we start creating things. The spaces started open up through the middle, and they started open up out wide. And this is why I say when Dyer is on the board, he can't afford to be taking these touches. What we done against West Ham, what we done against Aston Villa, what we done against Newcastle was quick ball. It was either quick ball into Bentancur, who popped it round the corner to Kane, or else it was a quick long ball. And we didn't allow them to get back and set up in their defensive shape. But Eric Dyer allowed them to do it every single time. And when you allow them to do it, This is what they do. They just block up the middle. You're not going into Bentancur, you're not going into Højbjerg, and you're not finding Harry Kane. Go out to Emerson or Sessegnon and let them beat their man and see what happens. And we just could not do it. We just could not do it. But the second half, there was no excuses. We did move the ball quickly. Bentancur and Højbjerg were getting on the ball and finding spaces. We just couldn't do anything with it. And look, it's disappointing, but with this map here, it's just a reflection of why we couldn't get Harry Kane to drop deep, get him on the ball, why we couldn't play a long ball into players and get them to hold it up, because they blocked up the middle and the support class weren't quick enough. They wanted us to play out wide. We obliged at times. We just didn't have the quality.
I think you're spot on, Dave. And one part that I really think you're maybe making a good point about is, like, you can see what Eriksen, Tony, and Mbeumo are doing there. They're clearly not making those passes in Højbjerg and Bentancur easy. And what maybe made it even more hard or even more difficult to get those passes in was just because Dyer was also taking ages on the ball anyways. So it was going to be even more impossible to get it into them. I think that was a really good point there made, Dave. And it just shows that teams are going to, if they're smart, if they want to sit back, if they want to sit compact, what they're going to do is that they're just going to put men in the middle there, and they're just going to sacrifice any sort of threat that's out wide, because they know the threat that's out wide is probably not nearly as dangerous as the threat that would come through the middle, which is going to be Kane and Son.
Yeah, and look, we now have to be prepared for this. You know, we have to be prepared that teams are going to start blocking up the middle. They are going to try and nullify Kane's threat. And we are going to have to come up with a different solution. Look, whether you ask Kane to drop out right or left now, to start trying to drop into them pockets to receive the ball and make something happen, I'm not sure. But we definitely need to come up with some answer. But a biggest part of the problem is Dyer just being quicker on the ball. Quicker on the ball, you don't allow them to get back, set up their defensive shape, and block the passes. That simple.
Yeah. Sebas Wolf in here, and he's saying we should have switched to a 4-3-3, taking off Sess and putting Bergwijn in the right wing with Kulu in the middle as a cam, Ben Davies at left back. Just a thought. I mean, Sebas, any thought at this rate, you could probably say is probably a good one, because we are really worried with, the fact that maybe teams are figuring out, Conte's 3-4-3. It's not that they're figuring out Conte's system in general. They're figuring out his Spurs, kind of system, because they know which players are not a threat and they know which players are a threat. If you have an 11 of players that, the opposition has to respect, 1 through 11, they have to respect each of those players, means Conte's system is going to be a whole lot more effective. But right now, I'm kind of with you. I'm starting to think that the 4-3-3, maybe a 4-2-4, something that sort of keeps the same shape that Conte has, but maybe just switches the personnel up, because maybe that's what we need, is just get players like Emerson off the pitch. And if that means switching to a 4-3-3, that might mean switching to a 4-3-3. And I actually like the idea of getting Bergwijn on a bit more. I really want Bergwijn, to just come into this team. I know he's the only player I realistically see coming in for the last 4 or 5 games to really, that Conte could trust to make a difference. I feel like what we're saying with Lavigne, Pescazzi, even though I want that to happen, it's just not realistic. I think with Bergwijn coming in for the last 4 or 5 games, maybe Conte makes that call, and that could be a good one. And any idea is a good idea at this stage, Sebas. Big up, my man.
Do you know what? I would definitely go as far as maybe starting Bergwijn instead of Emerson. My only fear is that, can you trust the guy defensively? Now, look, Antonio Conte is a defensive-minded person first. You shore up that defense, and he'll build everything up going forward. We've seen that when he came in. He shored up the defense, and then we brought in Bentancur and Kulu to start improving things further up the pitch. Now, look, so I'm not sure whether he will make that switch, because I'm not sure whether he thinks he can rely on Bergwijn defensively. As for Davies at left-back, I can see where you're going with this, Sebas, but we got to take ourselves back to last year, or even at left wing back. You got to take yourself back to last year under Jose. There was a period where Reguilon was out. Davies played there, and he got roasted week in, week out for 5.
Sess could get away with solid. Could Sess, keep Sebas' same idea? What if you kept the 4-3-3 there, but you put Sessegnon left back, maybe a bit better defensively than Reguilon, and then you keep Sonny at left wing, Bergwijn, perhaps, at left wing could also be there. Maybe Harry Kane through the middle. I don't know.
The thing is, right? Yeah. I genuinely believe Conte wants to switch to a 4-3-3. That's why he's been screaming out to the medical department and Ollie Skip to try and get back before the end of the season. He's been saying it for the last 4, 5, 6 weeks straight, that he wants them back. Now, look, obviously the injury has been worse than what was first feared, but the reason why he wants Ollie Skip back is because he can have that option to go for a 4-3-3 in these games. But he just does not trust Winks. And we know this. Look, forget about what the guy says in the press. Bentancur wasn't fit last week. He still went with Bentancur for 70-odd minutes. And he still went with Bentancur again today. And he refused to switch to a 3 in the middle because we all know as Spurs fans, it's like playing with 10 men. There's no point in calling for Skip or for Winks to come into this team because it's not going to improve it. Now, look, I can see what people are trying to do with the likes of Kulu and that. For me, you don't drop your attacking players into a sort of a midfield role. It's not what they're about. They're there to create. And in fact, what you're actually doing is, our problem is scoring goals, but what you're actually doing is taking one of the players from the forward area and dropping it into midfield. So you're actually sacrificing something else going forward. Look, right now it's damned if we do, damned if we don't. But these last 2 games, I mean, let's be real here, Jack. Does Jurgen Klopp or Pep Guardiola change their tactics for teams in the bottom half of the table?
No.
Does Thomas Tuchel?
No.
Barely any managers in the top 10 do, especially top 6. Do not change their tactics. Why should we have to do that at Tottenham Hotspur? You go down to Burnley and Sean Dyche.
But is that just because maybe they have the players that they know that those tactics work, at least for them? They're comfortable with the players,
Jack,
to do what they're asked.
This whole idea that the tactics don't work is nonsense. It's the same tactics that
the tactics do work, but maybe not with the players that he has. And the players that he has just aren't good enough, maybe, for some of the things that he's asking them to do.
No, tactics do work. They're the same tactics that work from October up until now to get us into this top 4 race. Yeah. So all of a sudden, because of 2 bad results, the tactics don't work. But nobody wants to talk about the lack of passes into the opposition half last week, the lack of passes into the opposition third last week, the lack of possession last week, how slow we were on the ball last week. This week, nobody wants to talk about when we were in the final third, the decision-making of the players. No one wants to talk about that we had more possession, more passes, and more passes into the opposition half. It comes down to players. It comes down to the players and the effort. We were playing, these tactics were working up until the Brighton game. People all over it. These tactics were working. The tactics work for Kane. They've worked for Son. They work for Kulu. They've worked for Bentancur. They work for Højbjerg. They work for Romero. They work for a lot of these players. These tactics do work. Just because we are unhappy and disgruntled with the results out of the last 2 games, it doesn't mean the tactics don't work. The tactics work. No one was complaining about tactics up until these last 2 games. And my point is that no other manager changes their tactics for Brentford or Brighton. Your players go out there and they're good enough to be able to play them off the park and find the solutions and get the result and get the win. Difference is our players have been playing scared. They haven't been taking the same risks. Go back and watch the last 2 games. I encourage everybody, go back and watch the last 2 games. And then the last 3 before that. Even the highlights. All you have to do is watch the highlights. Look at the amount of risk we take on the ball in them 3 compared to the last 2. And then come back to me and tell me it's tactics.
Wow. There you are, Sebas. And I mean, Dave, I think you made a good point as well. I mean, we talked about the honeymoon period with Conte, 9 games unbeaten. We talked about this run, recently to even get into top 4. What was that? Something like, 4 wins out of 5, something like 20 goals scored in the process. I mean, what's changed? Nothing's changed. I mean, it feels like maybe all of a sudden teams figure us out. Seems a bit maybe far-fetched. I think it's a good argument there, Dave. But Sebas, really appreciate the super chat. Really appreciate support, and clearly a good talking point as well, Sebas. And any idea is a good idea, my man. Any idea is a good idea.
You got me going.
Martin Walton just wanted to say hi to really good legend of the other channel as well. Just wanted to say hi to Martin. Paul Mainsbridge, of course. Mick Hermelach, always in here as well. Always good to see Mick. King Hoddle as well, of course. Good to see you, King. PC Matt's in the building as well. Life's like that name as well. Good to see you, Life. Fred Adams. We got Jeff as well in the building. CCH, of course. Yes. And just making sure I'm not missing anybody as well. But good to see you all in here. Really do appreciate you guys tuning in. But yeah, we were just finishing up the average positions, everybody. Maybe for those still just tuning in, this is what it looked at. The big talking point is, look how hard it is to get the ball through the middle there. Look at those three pressing, the likes of Eric Dyer to not get it into Bentancur and Højbjerg. Look at the players that are tucked in to, make it really difficult to get into Harry Kane. Oh, we got Sean in the building as well. Got the royalty. But yeah, everybody, just finished talking about those average positions there. If you want to maybe get into that discussion, which was a really good one, feel free to, go back into the stream a bit. Just kind of looking at Spurs' formation, you can kind of see my notes to the bottom there. Don't really need to talk about it too much. It's just the fact that maybe the big difference is I feel like I noticed that Romero and Emerson are getting closer together. The reason why I think that is, Dave, on the average positions is just because Romero's getting so frustrated with Emerson that he's almost starting to try to do his job for him. So he's trying to put himself in Emerson's positions, to make something happen. Whereas Emerson would normally operate in those areas to try to make something happen. Romero's getting so frustrated with Emerson that he's almost playing on top of him, you could say, like in terms of the average position. That's my theory behind that. Kane dropped even deeper. I think that had to do with Pontus Jansson almost man marking him. I think that had to do with Harry Kane just trying to find some sort of sense of breathing room in that midfield. Also probably thinking that if when Bentancur and Højbjerg ever did receive it, he's thinking like, I can't expect them to try to make some 15, 20-yard pass to me. I need to get even closer to them in order to pick up the ball. And then maybe another big point is that Cess actually did, have higher average position than Reguilon did, because Dave, Reguilon was dreadful in terms of the average position. Last game, he was all over the place. And then another thing I think that is a bit surprising is Ben Davies' average position was a bit higher, but I think that's just because he started making a lot of kind of late surging runs, just to get something going and maybe get a goal on the board. But I don't know, Dave, anything of those notes maybe on the bottom right there that may be interesting to you, that maybe that we missed talking about?
Just quickly, I just got my own notes on it, Jack. Look, what you're seeing here is very similar to what we brought up against West Ham, what we brought up against Aston Villa, what we brought up against Newcastle. Kane in that position, and what was happening is Kane was getting on the ball and someone was making them runs in behind. Very similar positions. The difference is what we're doing on the ball, how adventurous we are on the ball. That's the only difference. All these sort of positions now have been the same the last few weeks.
Big up George Hill as well. Just wanted to say big up to George Hill. Good to see him, my man. And then, this is again, another way, like a different angle of looking at, Brentford's average positions. Maybe the big point, again here is just like, look how just, it's just full of players in the middle there. It just looks impossible to even try to get anything through there. It's almost like kind of, Dave, if you were trying to do maybe like an art heist, like jumping through, the wire, the lasers, to try to get through like, security of some kind. It really looks that impossible to even make any sort of pathway through the middle. And I think that's obviously what teams are going to try to do against us, that maybe are those bottom half teams. I expect the bottom half teams that we come up against, maybe for the rest of the foreseeable games, maybe. So what would that be? I think we still have a game against Norwich and
Burnley.
And Burnley. I expect them to maybe more or less repeat some sort of shape like this. Liverpool and Leicester, I feel like they're just going to play their game. Liverpool, I'm not really so sure either. I think they're just going to play their game. But these bottom half teams for the rest of the season, Dave, are certainly going to have this sort of kind of shape where they're just piling bodies in there.
Jack, you look at this. I mean, Harry Kane would have to be playing where Eric Dyer is to get a bit of space. Honestly, to create something. No, you would. The only other thing I can think of is get Son and Kulu. Get them to push out wide and be an option over the ball, over the top every single time. It seems to be where the space is. So get Moon Boots. We know he loves to take ages on the ball and draw people onto him and then balloon it. So get him to do that. Get him to balloon it into one of the corners and get Son and Kulu maybe to stay high and up and out wide. And that's where the space is. And maybe that's the solution to Harry Kane dropping deep. Because you look here, Harry Kane would have to play where Eric Dyer was to be able to spring them passes. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, and like Rifle, too, good to see as well. Rifle putting in the comments, look at the wide areas, just so much space out there. They're just asking you to play out there. They're just asking you to play out there.
No, they are. They're just
Spurs boys. I just recognized it. Oh, big up, pick up. Good to see you in here. Love it.
Yeah, no, big up 3 Spurs boys. Look, it's just been asking to put out to the left flank, right flank. So maybe if it starts to happen again, tell Son, tell Kulu, stay high and wide. Because even if they do stay in high and wide and they send players across to be able to deal with that, it frees up space for Harry Kane in the middle. So, it's a win-win situation.
We're going to move into everybody the still images that I think are always really interesting. And everybody, as always, while you're piling in here, do everybody hit that like button if you do enjoy these tactical breakdowns as well. Do throw in a super chat to maybe just get the conversation going. There's something maybe that just really just has been bothering you about this result. Maybe something that Antonio Conte thinks that you feel like needs to change. Like Sebas said, feel free to throw it in a super chat, but we will try to get the comments up on screen. But everybody do let me know what you think of some of these still images, because I feel like maybe what's really important about some of this, Dave, is the fact that Sessegnon here in this situation, Dave, he has, I believe, all the time in the world to either go for a shot here, or he has all the time in the world to maybe take a touch, maybe find the likes of Højbjerg, maybe wait for a late coming run. But instead, he goes for a first time weak footed cross with time and space, Dave. It was really, really frustrating. I thought, this one, I just felt like, the big theme that we're going to hit here, and I think it went back earlier, is that we've been wasteful in the final third and with other chances as well. And I know we didn't really create a whole lot, but when we do have opportunities, when we did find ourselves in good positions, I thought we were just extraordinarily wasteful and just didn't take for granted any sort of the opportunities that we did actually get presented. And this one from Sessegnon is a good example, Dave. Like first time weak-footed right-footed cross to nobody. I think he was sort of going for Harry Kane, who's like almost double marked there. He has all the time in the world to take a touch, but instead he panics and decides to just balloon it. There's also even a potential check for Sonny if maybe he had a penalty shout, but instead Sessegnon just rushed it and just decided to balloon it out of bounds. I don't even think it hit a single person. It was just, I don't know, Dave, a part of a lot of still images that we're about to look up and bring up here about, wasteful opportunities.
Yeah, I think that a lot of these images are going to be about wasteful opportunities. Sonny was fouled on the edge of the box. For me, this is an advantage. Well, Sessegnon's left-footed. This is prime. This is absolutely prime for him to take.
What do you think Kostic does here, Dave? Like Kostic almost takes a touch here and then maybe goes for a bang. Goes far post. He
doesn't even need to. He takes a touch, Jack. Harry Kane comes across his man. Kulu runs to the back post and you put it across on your left foot, low and hard. That's all you got to do. You create a chance. What does he do? He goes right-footed in over Harry Kane's head. Where to? What, is fucking Casper back there? Seriously, it's so irritating. It's brain dead football. You've got options. You're getting men forward. Simply take a touch onto your stronger foot, whip it with a bit of grace across the 6-yard box. Harry Kane and Kulu then running into the back post. And if you want, you even have an option to pull it back there for whoever that is. I think that's Højbjerg or Bentancur. So it's just sloppy play. And what he does, he goes right foot across over the back of Harry Kane's head, and it goes out for a goal kick. It's just shocking decision-making. You were in a good position here to create something. And we didn't create anything.
Look at all the time and space that he has.
Even if he wants, like you said, left foot, right foot one towards goals. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't test. We don't test him whatsoever. It's a shocking position to be given up at this level, especially against teams like this.
Yeah, it really is a shock. Yeah, and I don't know why he's going for such a low percentage attempt. This was another situation, Dave. Again, I think Sessegnon found himself, this one's probably a bit harder when you look at it, probably a bit harder when I think about it, because he's, finding himself where he's almost one-on-one, with the player here. But he goes for a first time, cross here, Dave, which is probably not a bad attempt, but it ends up just getting rifled right into the player's midriff. I think, here I was thinking he can maybe have just either put in a better ball, maybe goes for a cross. I just remember this opportunity, and I remember when we did the watch along as well, Dave. I remember us being really frustrated with him again in this situation. It kind of still fits in the theme of being a bit wasteful in the final third. Again, everybody, it's not just Sessegnon. There are tons of other players who are guilty of this as well, but this was another one in particular from Sessegnon that I thought was a bit wasteful.
Again, Jack, take a touch, whip it round. How many times a day did they practice this in training? Take one touch, whip it round. Even if you don't want to do that, Jack, you've got one of the most deadliest players in the Premier League right there beside you, son. Give it to him. Give it to him. Who's he crossing that to? Who is he crossing that to? You've got one player in the box. One. First of all, we don't have anywhere near enough players pushing forward. If Doherty was in that team, you'd probably see him making that run, sneaking in towards the back post. But where is Sessegnon trying to cross that to?
I
I
can't
don't get
answer
it.
you, Dave. I can't
Again,
answer you,
it's
Dave.
just, it's poor. It's lack of composure, lack of skill to execute a decent cross, even when he went for it with one player in the box. But just give it back to Sonny. He's right there. Wake up, open your eyes.
Paul Markey in here with a super chat saying what's needed in certain games is, yes, a 4-3-3, which means we need a much bigger squad, including another option other than Kane. Big spend is required. Paul, I completely agree the big spend is required. But I would say, Paul, I think the 4-3-3 people are going for it because they're thinking, what can we get away with for the next 5 games, to get results? I feel like if you get that big spend, if you get in the players, we can continue with 3-4-3. We can get good enough players to make the 3-4-3 work. I don't feel like it's the system that is the problem. It's not the tactics that are the problem. It's just honestly the players that are in some of these positions that Conte is asking of them. They're just being asked too much. They're either not good enough for what he's asking them. It's just a big combination of them just not being good enough for what Conte wants in that position in the system, or they're just not consistent enough, which is what David was saying earlier, which is they were able to put in good performances before in that position, and then other games they just simply can't. So really, if we get in that right personnel, I think we can continue with the 3-4-3. Maybe what people are talking about with the 4-3-3, maybe, Paul, is that they're trying to, see what we can get away with for the next 4 or 5 games to get a result.
Look, I would love that.
Next season, I want to see us doing the 3-5-2 or the 3-4-3. I want to see us doing Conte's, sort of system.
I would love to have the flexibility. I'd love to sit there and go, ooh, especially on the pre-match build-up. Jack, Sean, what formation will we pick today? Pick one out of a magic hat. There's loads. We just do not have them options. Look, for me, I agree with him. A big spend, but not only is it a big spend, maybe on a striker or that midfielder to be that other option to be able to create chances than Harry Kane. But if you want to go forward the back, you're going to have a big spend across there. You've got to buy a right back. You've got to buy at least another 2 centre backs for me. I know you got Romero, but Dyer can't play in a back 4. Davies have proven he can't play in a back 4. Cesc Young is not good enough going forward in a back 4. Reguilon maybe isn't good defensively for a back 4. So you got to strengthen that whole back 4 if you want to go across for it. The reason why we're playing a 3 is because Dyer and Davies, they played in the back 4 under Jose last season. Dyer played left side of the centre backs in the back 4, and Dyer's played there a number of times. We got exposed week in, week out. Our lack of pace got exposed. Teams were just pumping balls in behind us and getting on the end of it. We were all over the shop in the back 4. So if we want to be able to have these options, it's not just big spend to try and find another creator. It's big spend to be able to get these players. But look, the thing is, Jack, you buy quality players, you buy players of quality, they adapt to different formations, they adapt to systems. Look, at Spurs over the last few years, we've had players and we're sitting there, like especially Dele Alli. Nah, he's a centre attacking midfielder. Let's play him there. Play him there, doesn't do anything. Nah, he's not. He's a striker. You got to play him up front. You keep moving the positions. Same with Ndombele. Same with the.
That's because we thought he was a quality player. Yeah. So
Jack, this is the thing. At Tottenham, we've been speaking. No, we got to play them in this position. We got to play them in that position. Didn't bother them. They done every position and every tactic has to make the senior to make the professional game. The difference is the money and the desire and the hunger to be able to do what the manager wants you to do. So it's very easy for you to have a cop out and go, no, I'm not a centre midfielder. I'm a centre attacking midfielder. Very easy to do that. Okay, you want that attitude? Fuck off out my club. I don't want you here. I just don't want you here. If I want you to play centre midfield, you play centre midfield and you do it to the best of your ability.
No.
So for me, it's quality right through this team. You buy quality players, you can play whatever system you buy quality players. You can play 10 up front if you want it. You get away with it.
Paul Markey in here with another one here, and he's actually, I think, raising an interesting question here, saying too often the big teams destroy 2 in the middle. Like maybe you came up against, like a team with really good quality on the ball, like a Man City. Maybe you come up against a team like, Liverpool, even a PSG, you could imagine, destroying, a 2 in the middle. Do you think that's true, Dave? What Paul is saying here, that a 2 in the middle can get, absolutely overrun and, absolutely torn apart maybe against the better teams.
Look, we've seen that against Man United. Ultimately, what springboard a lot of their attacks was just have a match sitting there in between the centre-backs who dropped deeper from the midfield, and they could just rotate the ball from left to right and build these attacks, which meant then that Fred and whoever else it was that day were kind of just free picking up these pockets of space. You go to the City game, you'd argue, look, they didn't really destroy us there, but you go to the Liverpool game where Conte did change it up and put 3 in the midfield, and we ended up getting a draw out of it. So I think there's definitely an argument to that. But Brentford and Brighton aren't big teams. Look, I get all this lately. You got to respect the opposition. No team is easy. Fine. I can accept that. But in terms of football, Tottenham Hotspur should be beating Brighton, and you should be beating Brentford. If you're not, you deserve to be down there with them. But you should be beating these teams. These are not big teams. Not big teams. You should have enough to find a way past these teams.
Really appreciate it, Paul. Really great talking points as well, Paul. Also as well. Always loves getting his opinion in there as well. Really appreciate you, Paul. And then Sebas Wolf saying, I'm not saying we should change the formation from the start, but hey, 3-4-3 isn't working. And then change the mid game to a 4-3-3 and try something different. That's I think I was agreeing with you, Sebas, like, or maybe even with, Paul's super chat. That's what I was kind of agreeing with, Sebas. Like the 3-4-3 to the common eye in the last 2 games, it's just not looking like it's working, especially maybe against teams like that who really want to set up in a way to stifle the opponent, not really flex their muscles and play the way that they like to play. They want to stifle their opponent, cause their opponents problems. It looks like maybe that 3-4-3 is a bit figured out. And so I see where you're coming from. I just said, with Paul, for the next 5 games, the next 4 games, what can we get away with to, get the maximum number of points in order to qualify for top 4? 4-3-3 could be an answer, and I think it's not a bad one at all. So, Sebas, don't worry, my man. Absolutely agreeing with you. But I would say the only reason the 3-4-3 isn't working maybe right now is just because of the personnel, and also just has to do with players or teams like Brentford and Brighton, looking at our teams and preparing a whole week to see our team, and they just realize, listen, we're not going to show Emerson, Sessegnon, Reguilon any respect. We're just going to leave everything, out wide, for them to try to cause havoc. We'll see if they can hurt us. They probably won't. And we'll just overwhelm them in the midfield and just basically take out their whole attack. And I see maybe teams like Leicester and Liverpool not really going to that sort of approach. But the teams like Brighton and Brentford, I think, have maybe more or less sort of figured it out a bit. But also to Dave's point, I mean, they couldn't figure it out when we got 9 games unbeaten. They couldn't figure it out when, we went into this run into the top 4 in the first place. So it's also just a bit of the players as well. But believe me, Sebas, I was agreeing with you. Don't worry.
Let me just add to that. I mean, no one questioned the 3-4-3 when we bet Brighton earlier on in the season playing it. It worked then. Bet them 2-0. No one questioned the 3-4-3 when we bet Brighton in the FA Cup and down at the MX. Worked then, didn't it? Worked fine. Difference is the players moved the ball quick and created chances and took them. These 2 games, we didn't. We wanted to play around the back. That's the whole difference. The 3-4-3 works. It worked when we bet them earlier on in the season. Why isn't it working now? It's because the players, they were taking risks against Aston Villa, Newcastle, West Ham. They didn't take risks against Brighton and Brentford. Okay, fair enough. They blocked up the middle. They blocked the routes into Harry Kane. But you're telling me the rest of these players in a 3-4-3 are not good enough to be able to find the solutions to be able to get by these teams? Absolutely horse crap. We bet them earlier on in the season. In fact, we bet Brighton twice this season with the same formation. Just because we drop points, all of a sudden now we're questioning the formation. Stop questioning the formation. Question the players. It's the same players last season that finished 5 points off top 4 under Jose Mourinho and had a good chance of getting it. What happened? They bottled it. And what did we do? We questioned the tactics and the formations. Stop questioning the tactics and the formation. It was good enough to beat these teams already this season. Oh, what? All of a sudden now it's just not good enough. Oh, they found us out. We fucking bet them earlier on. Bet Brighton twice and bet Brentford once. The formation works. It's not the formation. It's at the speed we move the ball at. It's at the amount of running we're doing on and off the ball. It comes down to desire, heart, and effort, not the formation. It worked to beat them. It worked to beat them already.
Yeah, those same 2 teams that we played last time out. I mean, probably it's a really good point.
The thing is, nobody questioned the formation once we bet them 2-0 earlier on this season. No one questioned the formation. I wasn't questioning the formation after we bet Brighton at the Amex. I wasn't questioning the formation after we bet them at home. Worked fine then. Worked completely fine. In fact, the one at home, we actually had Harry Winks in the middle. and then brought on Bentancur a bit later on in the game. It worked with him in there. Well, all of a sudden it doesn't work now. All of a sudden our formation and the way we play is not good enough and we need to mix it up. I'm not having it. We do this under every bloody single manager we have. You lose one game, not formation tactics. Very easy to go and blame the manager. Look at some of the players. Look at the effort. Look at the passes. Look at passes into final third. Look at running stats from the games previous compared to now. It is not the formation. This same formation, this same personnel, bet these two teams during this season playing the exact same way.
To Bottom Duda saying we can revisit this next season, but I am fairly confident Conte will move to a 3-5-2 next season. Currently, we don't have the midfielders who can go higher or make a sublime pass or score a goal. What we're really missing is that Barella. We don't have a Barella-like player, and I think there really are. It's not like that sort of player that you can just get anywhere. I think there's only a fine amount of them available. To be honest, you could see Eriksen sort of playing that role, but you would then need to get another one, so you're not just running Christian Eriksen to death in that sort of role. I actually do see us having a 3-5-2 next season. Is that what we're going to go with all the time? I don't think so, but I think we're going to switch it up a lot more to probably actually settle some of the issues that maybe we're having with what people are kind of complaining about. The lack of maybe players in midfield, the lack of options off the bench, for central midfielders. So I see Conte really wanting to prioritize a good, solid central midfielder to bring in so that 3-5-2 is available to him, because I think he'd be a lot more dangerous to Bottom Duda if he had the 3-4-3 available with a lot of good players, as well as the 3-5-2 available with a lot of good players. That would make him a lot more versatile, make him a lot more flexible, just make him a lot harder to predict. And probably that would make us have a much better chance of being a title-winning team next season if we were also able to field a 3-5-2. But like you said, the problem is just right now, we just don't have the players to do it. And even with Tanguy, when we had Gio, they couldn't even do it. They weren't effective in those positions. They were given opportunities to be effective in those positions. Harry Winks has been given the chance, just eventually died out like we knew he would. So like you said, it's just not possible right now. But next season, I think it is a possibility, and probably would be the difference between us winning the title or at least challenging for the title, at least, because in order for us to challenge for a title, I think we need to be effective in both of those formations. We need to have the personnel for both.
Yeah. Look, for me, 100%, I see what you're saying about him doing it. But this is where, again, it comes down to desire and hunger for me. I mean, Højbjerg's pass against Leeds United for Harry Kane, telling me he can't pass the ball. He played one over the top for Emerson there against Brentford. He can pass the ball, but how regularly is he doing it? Bentancur, first thing he done when he came on in the Spurs jersey was switch the ball from left back out to right wing to Lucas Moura. He can pass a ball. How often is he doing it? This is the question. We have players that can't do it, but how often are they doing it? How often are they attempting it? Is it enough? Too many people over the last couple of games, especially the last two, want to take the safe option. Pass it on to the next man 5 yards. Pass it on to the next man 5 yards. No one wants to take that risk. We've seen Jack. We've seen Regular make them runs. Seen Emerson make them runs. We've even seen Sonny make them runs. Does the ball come? No, it's shipped on 5 yards. It's how often we do it. We have the players to do it. They just don't want to do it often enough. And look, we were talking about this yesterday with Shawnee Jack. I mean, what was I going to say? Like against these teams, they want you to play everything in front of them. That's what they want. They are happy to sit 11 men behind the ball and just move side to side, watching you pass across the back line. Against these teams, the onus is on you to try different things. Balls in behind, spray balls out wide, balls into feet, 5-yard balls, everything else. We didn't have enough variety in our play. We just did not have that whatsoever. You mix it up, you beat these teams. Jurgen Klopp, Pep Guardiola doesn't make one single tactical change to beat these teams. Just their personnel are more brave on the ball and they have more hunger and desire to go and win. That's the only difference. Their players do it on the regular. Our players don't do it regular enough.
I actually agree, and it's probably just because the pressure was on, maybe, or wasn't really on, so maybe they're just more willing to take those risks, perhaps. To Bottom Duda, nonetheless, I think a great comment, and I completely agree, and I'm looking forward to reopening this conversation. This is not going to be done, my man. We're going to be talking about this again, and really appreciate the big one as well. Really do appreciate support. Just wanted to say hello to a few members. First, Dave, Bob Spur TV's in the house. Good to see Bob Spur as well. Saying he was being rude by even calling Emerson a footballer. Big up Bobby. And also big up Bobby K as well. Good to see you in here. I know there's another member I saw come in just before. Zoe as well. Good to see you,
big
Zoe.
up Zoe.
She said felt a bit depressed over the weekend due to the results and the Conte drama, despite the media negativity. Come on, you Spurs always. Zoe, always in here, always a legend.
I just wanted to say to Sebastian, the bottom dude, I'm not 100% disagreeing with you. Look, I'm just giving my views and I'm just giving them passionately. I do it with a bit of passion because I believe in them so much. That's all it is.
I know Sebas does as well, Dave. I'm pretty sure he's a New Yorker as well, so I know he'd be giving it to you as well. I know if he would probably be jumping through the screen if he could right at you, Dave. But Paul Markey's saying right wing back, left wing back, 2 center backs, 2 attacking midfielders, left winger, and a second kind of central striker, a center forward. Probably spot on. So what is that though? Then at the end of the day, so that is 4, 6, 7, 8. That's 8 signings. I actually agree with him. I think that is actually, if you really want to fix everything, solve everything, you probably do go with maybe 8 signings is probably what's needed if you really want to fix everything. You could get away with 6, I think, though, over the summer. I think you could get away with 6.
Cheers, if we got 8 signings, we'd be at Man City's level. We'd have squad depth for days. We could just pick a random formation, pick the players to suit that formation. That would be a godsend, my man. So it would. Look, right wing back, 100% needed. Look, I got it wrong on Emerson. I wanted to give the guy a chance.
Yeah,
I thought defensively good. But look, just not what we need going forward. So for me, you've got to bring somebody else in. Left wing back, look, I like Reguilon. I'm just going to say this now. I like Reguilon.
This is a future show, though. Yeah, it's going to be a future show. But yeah.
But
yeah.
I just don't think left wing back is emergency. I think you can work with Reguilon and Session to be able to get more out of them next season. Centre backs times 2, 100%. Could not agree more. I want Ben Davies and Dyer replaced. Look, great seasons, very good seasons in terms of the whole of the seasons, but still not good enough to be where we want to get to. So for me, I mean, you look at that goal against Brighton last week, not good enough defensive whatsoever. So for me, look, and that there's been recurrent themes of that kind of throughout the season of them little moments. So for me, upgrade on the 2 of them, but use the 2 of them as backup players and then get rid of Sanchez and Rodon. Attacking midfielder, look, I definitely would like to see an attacking midfielder, but maybe another centre midfielder, just have that extra option. Look, if we're keeping Lucas and Bergwijn, I struggle to see us getting any more wingers in. But look, I've made no bones about this. I've always wanted a second striker, but I want a second striker of quality. If we're going to bring in some journeyman, like we were with like when we brought in Carlos Vinicius, he was loaned out to all these other clubs, never really banged in any goals, apart from in the Portuguese league. He came to Tottenham, okay, he got a couple of goals, but you look at the teams he's playing against. Look, for me, if we're going to bring in someone like that, I'd rather keep someone like a Dane Scarlett around who can learn off Harry Kane and stuff like that. But if we're going to get a striker,
you can't get away with that next season, though. You can't get away with that next season.
No, you won't. Like they will have to go and get a striker. They do have to go and get one. But I want a striker that I know when they come off the bench, I feel like there's a goal in them. I don't want to be looking at the bench like, oh, bring on this guy. Hopefully he does something. And then after the game, we're sitting there about, oh, what if he did bring him on? He might have done something. No. I want to be able to sit there and say, we should have brought him on. He would have got you a goal. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I agree. Love that. There you are, Paul. Tottenham Tangible Gold in the house saying we will get top 4. We are the mighty Tottenham Hotspur. Come on, your Harris Army. Dermot, really generous and really love you as well, brother. Dude, love the optimism as well, my man. Paul Markey again in here saying system works some games. That's why versatility is required, like City and Pool can do. A one-trick pony never finishes a course.
What? When did Liverpool change up their formation, though? When? Champions League, League Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, they play the exact same way, exact same formation. The only thing that change is they can have players that can dip in and out of that formation and be rested and bring others in. Same as Man City. Very, very. I mean, go back and look over the last couple of years. Maybe Pep Guardiola with the Champions League, you kind of think with personnel. But apart from that, name me a time where they actually changed up their formation.
Yeah.
Oh.
I feel like, Dave, you're right with Liverpool, Man City. Like, what do they really change apart from the personnel? And maybe that's when it's always a question. Is sometimes he goes with weird personnel, I guess, Pep. But those two teams don't really change. You even look at Arsenal, like they not really changed very much this season either. Like once they've really hit their groove, any team that's hitting any sort of patch of form, they keep it the same. They don't really change things up. I think the only manager that you could actually look at, maybe Dave, I don't know. Maybe it's come from the Jose days. If I were to come up with a theory for why we want more versatility, because Jose would switch things all the time. We would, if he thought a three in the back was good for that 1 week and that 1 week only, he would do it, and he would then go back to the four in the back. If he thought maybe five in the midfield was what we needed, he would go five in the midfield. He always adjusted to the opponent. And that's sometimes a way of looking at football, actually, at the end of the day. Some people do look at football that way, where you have to respect what the opponent can do. And maybe you have to change yourself, to get the best of their weaknesses. But you also have to look at
I
maybe
hear
what
what you're
Pep
saying.
Guardiola, and you have to look at what Pep and Klopp do, which is like, if your system is good enough, your system should be good enough to beat everybody when it played in the right way. And that's what I think Conte probably thinks too.
I see what you're saying about Jose Mourinho, Jack, but what happened to him?
No, that's what I'm saying. Maybe that's
He's
where
not
it's
Spurs
coming from.
manager anymore. He
Maybe
got
that's where it's
sacked.
coming from for
The
people.
players
That's where it's
hated him.
coming from.
1 week
Yeah.
they're in the team, 1 week they're out of the team, they're crying.
Yeah.
The difference between Liverpool City and Tottenham Hotspurs, Liverpool and City, they buy players to fit a system. If it don't work, within a year or a year and a half, they're out of that club and you bring the next guy who wants to come in and do it. At Tottenham, we don't do that. We ask the manager, we say, look, okay, we know they have their faults. We know that there's glaring weaknesses in some of their games, but that's why we employ you. We want you to get more out of them. Sometimes there's only so much you can polish a turd before you say, look, it's not going to turn into a gold brick. You know what I mean? It is just a lump of shit. There's only so much you can do with these players. And like I said, the difference is Man City and Liverpool have players. You don't do the job, okay, you're out the door. We're getting the next guy who actually wants to do it. At Tottenham, we have players that are here too long, too comfortable. I hear what you're saying about Jose Jack. But look, where did it get us? It got us absolutely nowhere. We were getting spanked nearly most weeks. It didn't get us anywhere.
And every game was sketchy, and every game was sweaty. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Players
Every game wasn't
fans
easy.
fans were going mad about formations. In fact, when Jose was changing it, Jack, do you know what the fans were saying?
That's what we were mad about. Yeah, that's
what
what we were
the
mad
fans
about.
were saying? We've got to find one system and one way of playing. Now we've done that. Now they want to go back to switching it up. What do us fans want at this club? What do we want?
Sebas Wolf has become a member, Dave. Like I said, I told you he's going to jump through the screen at you, Dave. I told you. So we're going to be seeing him Monday, and he's going to be putting on, his best, especially Sebas. And Sebas, really appreciate support as well. Really appreciate you contributing to the channel, as well as contributing to the conversation. I must say as well, bringing the best out of David. I must say, Sebas, I'm looking forward to see what you can do on the fan show. You can bring the best out of him there. But Sebas, really do appreciate it. If Monday doesn't work for you, my man, email us. You can find it in the description. Maybe we could find a time to bring you on or something like that, for the channel as well. But Sebas, really do appreciate, the support as well, my man.
Big up, Sebas. Hopefully we see you Monday, brother. We'll have a good conversation. Get your ass on here Monday. No excuses. Don't want to hear that. Get on here Monday. We have a good conversation.
Bottom dude is saying, I know David will disagree, but I am not happy with Paratici. Big teams are getting busy. Chelsea know they won't have Rudiger or Christensen. We don't know the outgoings yet. Paratici is laid back. To bottom dude, I'm going to disagree as well, as well. I'm a big defender of Paratici. But it's not even just David that's going to disagree. I mean, I think he's probably actually working away. I mean, the reason why we're even having so many rumors at this moment in time is I think because Paratici's always switching things up. And if I remember correctly, under Steve Hitchen, it always just felt like the rumors were more or less just these vague players that we always just were kind of connected with, but we never knew that there was any substance behind. Where it's like with Paratici, I must say, to bottom dude, we're being linked with players that we would never have been linked with. Like, the likes of Wilfred Singo. Like, would we really be looking at Wilfred Singo, as a right wing back? Denzel Dumfries in this situation as well. We've been linked with players that, have just felt like Bentancur even in that case as well. Like, who all of a sudden, we bring in players like that. Romero. I'm actually satisfied with Paratici. I think he's probably doing the opposite of laid back, if you ask me, to bottom dude. I know what you mean, though, because you look at teams like Bayern, you look at teams like Dortmund, you look at teams like Leipzig and whatnot, especially, I guess, mostly the German teams, to be fair, and some Italian teams. They do so much business ahead of time. They're signing, players ahead of time. They do all this business early. And I honestly get a bit jealous as well, the bottom dude. But I would say stay patient with Paratici. Let the Don cook. He still has a bit of cleaning to do. He's got some players that he's got to get out the door. He's got a bit of cleaning to do as well, my man. But let the Don cook, Paratici. Let him cook, the bottom dude. Love you, though. Absolutely love it.
Look, Paratici is a hot topic of debate. And look, I have no problem people disagreeing with me on Paratici. No problem whatsoever. I mean, look, I could end up being wrong, but just from what I see, I think the guy had a massive job to come in when he came in here to clear out a load of crap before he could bring in players, which is what he done. And look, whether we like it or not, our owner is Daniel Levy, and there's budgets there to work under. Every other club work under budgets as well. So he had to clean house before he could bring players in. He couldn't add more to that wage budget. Okay. The first couple of signings that summer, them signings were made for Nuno. Galini was brought in as a backup keeper because we didn't know the situation with Hugo Lloris's contract. So I have no problem what he done there. And that just means that we weren't going to be extorted into a market when we went looking for a goalkeeper if Hugo Lloris refused to sign the contract. And you're going for some average goalkeeper and they want 40 million because they know you need a goalkeeper. So it saved us doing that. Look, Emerson was brought as right back. He just cannot play a right wing back.
But he's also saying we don't know the outgoings yet. There, Dave. I feel like he probably does know the outgoings. I think he knows the outgoings. Yeah.
Harry Winks gone. Sanchez gone. Roden gone.
He almost got rid of Sanchez in January. He almost got rid of Bergwijn in January. Winks is just impossible to get rid of. So, I mean, whenever that happens, will happen.
The thing is, right, I can get the Bolton do his frustrations here, Jack, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're comparing us to like City, Liverpool, Chelsea, Real Madrid, Barcelona, who have squads for days, I
kind
get
of
it.
Look at us and you're like, yeah, twiddling our thumbs. Yeah, kind of looks like we're twiddling.
They can turn around to the players they have and just say, okay, 4 year gone this summer, look for a new club and put that out in the press and let fans know, purely because they have another 17 players that they can work with for the remaining games of the season. We've got 12. We've got 12 that we can rely on. He can't turn around to Harry Winks now and go, you're gone, or they can't put that out in the press. Because what we get an injury, we need him for 4 games. You can't have him going into them 4 games with a negative mindset. You cannot do it. We do not have the size of the squad or the players we can trust to leak our outgoings. We just cannot do it. Look, in terms of incomings, look, I think it's pretty clear what we're going for. We're going for right wing back. We've been linked with Jed Spence, Denzel Dumfries, and Wilfred Singo. Apparently, there was rumours that Spurs have actually put in a bid for Denzel Dumfries.
Yeah.
Now, and we're pursuing Wilfred Singo. Now, if this was Steve Hitchin, we would have got in William Samuel and David Duta from the Championship or from League Two. At the end of the day, you've got to let the guy work. Look, we've got to understand how Paratici works. You could sit there and you could be convinced a sign is coming in, like we were with Amrabat. But behind the scenes, the guy is cooking for a bigger deal and a better deal. It's just we do not have the squad right now. And look, we know the squad is mentally fragile. So what use does it do to this squad putting out in the press what players are going and what players are coming in and putting even more pressure on them?
That's a good point.
It doesn't make sense. We can barely handle a top 4 run. We can't handle the pressures of cup finals or semi-finals. What makes you think adding to this and putting stuff out in the press is going to get this squad to top 4? We're in a Champions League run. Until that's finished, you're not going to see anything, I'm afraid. And I believe it's the right decision.
I agree, actually. I think that was a really good point to end on there, Dave. And I think at the bottom, dude, you heard that last point. I think that's probably why the outgoings aren't, so obvious and maybe aren't, being leaked, because it just is going to hurt the squad morale. And it's simply just going to make the players that we need to rely on in case something goes wrong. They might just not show up because they know that their allegiance or, where their future lies. It's not with Spurs. And you can't make it that obvious. But the bottom, dude, really appreciate support.
Just quickly, just to add to that. I mean, we already seen the excuse Ben Davies had in the European Conference League and Harry Winks. We already seen the excuses, let alone actually giving them an excuse to not perform. oh, well, I couldn't perform because they said I was going out the door this summer, or, you know, that my replacement has been linked with Tottenham this summer, so I just stopped performing. You know, that's not my fault. That's the club fault. They need to make me feel loved. We already seen the excuses these guys pulled under Nuno. I'm not having it anymore with these guys. So I actually think it's the right decision. So that when it doesn't happen, I don't want to hear any excuses from them. It's like, you have no excuses. None whatsoever.
Big up to Bottom Duda. Really appreciate the big support as well. Honestly, massive support. Paul Markey saying, David, I said an alternative to Kane, not a journeyman. I know, Paul, believe me, Paul, I know you don't want that journeyman as well. I mean, Paul, Dave, he's in my flat cap all the time, you know, telling me, Jack, can't be looking at this guy. We need much better in this. Paul, he's got fine taste when it comes to the players he wants bringing in. So I know he doesn't want a journeyman either.
No, I agree, Paul. That's what I was saying. I don't want just, you know, we're pulling in this striker from Saudi Arabia and, you know, apparently he's the next fucking Cristiano Ronaldo and we take a gamble on him. I was just saying I want a proper guy coming in, a proper guy that I know I can sit there and go, bring him on, he'll get a goal. Okay, he didn't bring him on, but he would have got a goal. Why didn't he change it? I want to have the options. I don't want to be sitting here after the game and going, oh, well, if he brought on Vinicius, he could have changed the game. Could have is not good enough for where I want to go, where I want to be. I can tell you that now. Could have is not good enough. I want a surety.
Paul Markey, huge, massive support. And it's really, really generous as well, Paul. I really do appreciate you. As well as Sebas, also really massive and really good. And as well, honestly, you and Paul, Sebas, getting the best out of David here. And to Bottom Duda getting the best out of him. Honestly, to Bottom Duda always gets the best out of me as
Everyone
well.
Get me riled up, Jacko. Get me riled up.
Really appreciate all of you. It really does help us out a lot. And honestly, it just makes the conversation even better, I think. And it really does support the channel. I really do appreciate it. Patty Higgins just wants to say hello to a member as well, Dave. Just want to say hi to Patty as well in the chat. And he's saying, big up, lads. Just heard the 8 signings chat. Have to agree with that. But if we need 8 signings, are we currently kidding ourselves that we're a top 4 team who deserve Champions League football? We're just getting by with 12 players. David has said this before. I think a lot of us have said this before, Patty. We're getting by with 13. Can we make that top 4 run with 13 players, you know, at our disposal that sort of can play football? I mean, it would be a miracle in itself to get by with that few players. But yeah, we are that team that actually needs 8 quality signings to be brought in order for us to really feel a lot more comfortable about this squad. But I don't see that even happening this summer. It's why we've even said for a long time it's going to take multiple transfer windows in order for this, you know, real situation to get all fixed, because it also, we got to get some of these, you know, draws out as well. So it's just going to take a bit of time. A lot of cleaning, a lot of cooking needs to be done, Patty, but I don't need to tell you that.
I've said this, Patty. I mean, I've said this a number of times over the last couple of weeks. We do not deserve to be where we are right now. We shouldn't even be in the race. Under Nuno, after that 3-0 defeat to Man United, nobody was talking about us in top 4. In January, after that disappointed the whole way through the month of January, no one was talking about us top 4. All of a sudden, 2 new signings come in and we went on an incredible run and it's got us to this position. Do we deserve to be here? I think 11, 12 players deserve to be here because they've done everything they can to get us here. But in the general grand scheme of things, do we have any right to be in this conversation? No, not whatsoever. This team and this manager has done an absolute incredible job to get us where we are right now. Now, I get it. I'm going to be as angry and as disappointed and as fed up as the next person if we do not make that top 4. But at the end of it, after a day or two, you've got to reflect on it and say, well, hang on, they've done a bloody good job to get us here. At this club, there's a culture that I feel is developing that you can't really praise anybody. We're always looking for the negative. We're always looking for some sort of reason or some sort of... You praise them. You've got to praise them. We do not deserve to be here. What Conte has done with a limited squad, what these players have done without any rest, week in, week out to get us here. For me, I think they deserve to be praised.
No, I think it'll be definitely, hopefully, something a lot of people agree with. We were talking about Sessegnon, Dave, and then, you know, we just got onto a ton of other good stuff, you know, before. Yeah. But Sessegnon here, I think this was an image you wanted me to include here. Does it just fit with the same theme that we were saying before? Is there anything different about it? No.
No, okay. Just another example of Sessegnon being wasteful. That's all. Yeah. Again, just another show of another good position we're in to put a decent ball into the box. Does he deliver that good ball? No, he doesn't.
No.
He wasted.
Everybody, again, that's just tuning in. We're talking about, a big theme here that we saw from the Brentford game, and it was that we didn't create very much, but when we did find ourselves in opportunities to create something, to do something, to maybe perhaps get even a goal against the run of play, we just failed dramatically, and we were being so wasteful. So this is just, a bit of a theme of images of maybe us being wasteful in the final third, and other chances included. We talked about Sessegnon. Now we're going to talk about this moment. I think this is the 89th, 90th minute, almost even stoppage time. Ben Davies in this situation, everybody finds himself in the corner flag here. Just simply takes, I think, a few touches to even get it under control. Tries to then play it through these two players to Harry Kane. Ends up just being a woeful pass that ends up going out of bounds, I even believe, Dave, for a goal kick. It was that frustrating. He had Lucas Moura, Sonny in the box. There is a bit of concern here as well, though, that maybe Højbjerg, Bentancur, and Kulusevski, I don't know why they're so far behind. Maybe it was just because it was a long ball, to Route 1 to Ben Davies. But this was just another opportunity of just being so wasteful, especially when you need to be most clinical, Dave. This was like the 91st minute, wherever it was.
Yeah, no, look, for me, Jack, that image, the reason why I asked you to bring it up, this was actually 92 minutes. I think there's 3 minutes added on. And this is when we're chasing the game. This is when we're looking for that goal to keep us in top four. Ben Davies is on the ball. We don't have anywhere near enough players forward. We're chasing the game, mind you. This is 92 minutes and we need to go. And then just what Ben Davies does with the ball is absolutely shocking. Takes a couple of touches to get it under control. Kane makes that overlapping run. But then he just plays it off the Brighton defender and it goes out for a throw-in. And then he takes an eternity to get the ball back from the throw-in and throw it back in. I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is 92 minutes. We need this goal. How badly do you want Champions League football? How bad? Not very bad if that's what you're doing with the football at 92 minutes. Wait for Harry Kane to make that overlapping run. Wait for him to drag the defender with him. Pull it back and fucking swing it in with your right foot. It's 92 minutes. 92 minutes. You got to do better.
Another one here, Dave. This was that corner into Bentancur, and he was free at the front post. And, in fact, I think it got in between Tony and I believe another player here, and he actually had a free header, and he just scaled it over the bar by a pretty big margin as well. Just another opportunity. And like we said, everybody, I know we didn't really create very much on the day, but you're starting to see a theme here where if someone just had a bit more quality here, maybe a bit more concentration, a bit more focus, even just a bit more, I don't know, just bringing on their football brain, you could even say that day, you would say we would have created a lot more in some of these opportunities, because some of it's just down to just bringing your football brain that day. Other, it's just down to concentration, like I think this one with Bentancur, but as well, this is another one, again, and like we said, Sessegnon, good example, Ben Davies, good example, Bentancur, good example, Harry Kane found himself, I think, in the beginning of the game, Dave, when we just found ourselves, I think, settling in. We won the ball high up the pitch. I think it was through some sort of Højbjerg tackle or something like that. And then it ends up getting up to Harry Kane. Sonny lays it off to Harry Kane here. And instead of maybe playing Kulu, instead of maybe taking a touch and, going for a low, shot across the keeper, he goes for a pretty wasteful first time dink over the keeper. And in my opinion, just matches this theme here. Really, really, really wasteful sort of attempts on goal, and really wasteful opportunities, or really wasteful of the opportunities that were given to us.
Caught in two minds here, Jack. I mean, he's caught, he's still thinking shoot or cross. And in the end, he does neither. He just kind of lofts it into the keeper's hand. But here, if Harry Kane holds on to that for that split second, Kulu makes that run. He can play Kulu in behind, or else Kulu drags that defender, and that creates that space for Son. Slide it in there, and we all know what Sonny's done over the last couple of weeks. I think what we're trying to show you here over the course of all these images is that it's not down to formation. It's not down to tactics. It's down to our decision-making in the final third. We were in good areas. It's what we've done with that ball in the final third that let us down.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it there. Another one here, Dave. This was a Højbjerg, I think, ball over the top to Emerson.
Yes.
This was the only good thing Emerson did all day. Takes the ball into the box, slides it across to Harry Kane here. Harry Kane's first touch, it's not the greatest. It's not bad either. He keeps it in front of him. It kind of pops up a bit here, but he kind of goes for a snapshot, Dave, kind of goes for, a bit of a panic, sort of attempt on goal here. And I don't know, like, this was you that pointed it out. It wasn't even me. you kind of felt like you could have maybe looked up a bit here and maybe played someone like Kulu, you thought, or even a Bentancur if, maybe he were able to turn all the way around.
Yeah, look, what Kane done is he actually turned into the trouble and struck it right off the Brentford defender. If he
Right.
turns the other way, he opens up the rest of the goal and it's 1-0. If he lays it back to Kulu, he lays it onto Kulu's good foot, and Kulu has that whole left-hand side of the goal to guard the ball into. Wants to hold on to a bit longer, he can play it into Bentancur there and he can smack it. Again, he was too rushed. I get it. I can understand. I've been there before. You've been setting everybody up. You want your goal. You get a bit selfish. You start popping off shots where maybe the weeks before you would have laid it off. But here, for me, he turns into trouble and shoots it off one of the Brentford players. Lay it off. Turn out the other way. Just be more smart. Be more intelligent. No, I shouldn't be telling Harry Kane to be more intelligent. But in this part, he's got to do something different with it. And again, it's just another prime example of what we done in the final third. In fact, I think this one led to like 3 or 4 shots, albeit all bouncing off Brentford players. But if we had that composure in the right moment and picked the right pass, you get that shot on goal, and that's the difference, Jack.
Yeah. So far we've seen it from Kane, we've seen it from Ben Davies, we've seen it from Bentancur, seen it from Sessegnon, and another one that we caught, Dave, was also, this was like 87th, 88th minute. Son has a free kick right outside the penalty area. It's either go for goal and be the hero or put a good ball into the box, like he did against Watford. Because, Dave, we remember he did this exact thing against Watford. He puts a good ball into the box. We end up, getting a snatch and grab 1-0 win. And it was a completely different story at the end of the day, when Sonny did that. In this situation, puts a poor ball in, and it's another opportunity, kind of wasted. And it just, again, fits in the whole theme of opportunities wasted when they are presented to you.
This was our last real chance to kind of put something on the goal. I think this was
it's
actually
really similar to Watford. I think that one where we grabbed the winner, similar situation.
It is, but like this free kick, Jack, it's straight down the pipe to their goalkeeper. The way we were set up, that straight ball, that wasn't on. You've got to whip that. You've got to put whip on that. You've got to put it in and get it to come back out to give your defenders a chance to get on the end of it. And look, what I say sounds technical and sounds hard. It's not bloody hard, Jack. I could do that with my eyes closed. Put the ball there, I'll run up and I'll whip one towards Eric Dyer or Harry Kane. It's not hard. I mean, you're talking about 2 guys that are 6 foot plus, Jack. I mean, it's not like they're 5'4" and they're hiding behind bodies, is it? You can see them. They're towering above people. Just put in something for them to go and attack. You don't. You put it straight down the keeper's pipe. Again, shows lack of quality in moments when you just need that composure. Well. You need that composure. And we didn't have it.
No, I think it's like, in the case of Kane and Son, I think it's just lack of composure, lack of concentration, because we know they have the quality. We know they have that. It's just lack of concentration, lack of composure, really. I think really what it comes down to.
I just want to say to people before I move on to these super chats that all them images we showed you there's got to be 7, 8, Jack, if not more, that we brought up. All them images are showing you that we just lacked any sort of
end product
in the final third. The decision making on the day was poor. It's not like we struggled to get into the game. It's not like we struggled for passes, possession, or passes into their half, because we didn't. If you go back and look at the stats earlier on in the game when we first brought them up, we had more than Brentford in all of them.
Yeah,
they had less possession, less passes in our half, but had more shots and more shots on target compared to us. And that literally comes down to composure and decision making in the final third and a bit of quality. We did not have it. So this game, it doesn't come down to tactics. It comes down to the players and their decision making.
Bottom Dude is saying, this being a World Cup year and with 5 subs next year in the Premier League, this is hands down one of the most significant transfer windows for ambitious teams. To Bottom Dude, this sort of comment is almost actually what even got me, working with David, or these sort of kind of comments that I kind of have brought up to Dave before. I think with this being a World Cup year, you'll have a lot of players probably saving themselves, for that tournament, maybe when it starts to approach. You also have a lot of players that we did discuss on a Kaniki Answer Me that might end up not really have any time to recover at all from the tournament. So you think about it, if you have a player that ends up making those semifinals, even those finals, they are going to have a tough time trying to recover. They only have like 8 to 9 days to even recover from the tournament. And so that is going to be a major worry, especially if England were to make a big surge. Maybe someone like, Argentina makes a big surge. Romero could end up, playing a lot of football. Also, a lot of our players who play for their national teams, to bottom Duda, they're not just, guys that are warming the bench. They're guys that pretty much start in their teams and are pretty much 90 minutes in, 90 minutes out every single game. So it is a big worry. And it does show that 6 players, like, it's almost it's probably the bare minimum when you really think about it, more and more, to bottom due to 6 players. Was that, if that's what Conte wants, if that's what, the tabloids are saying he's been asking for, it makes sense, because when you take into consideration what the bottom two is saying here, Dave, like 6 players is an absolute need, because we're going to need a much deeper squad, especially with the European tournaments, but also because of the World Cup. And because when you have 5, subs available, you have to be able to compete with those big teams who can just put on almost a whole new squad if things aren't working. We need to be able to do the same thing. If things aren't working, we can put on a Bergwijn, a Lucas, and someone else, and just switch things up entirely. So we do need a big rejuvenation of that squad. This is why you need a lot of signings brought in.
100%, couldn't agree more with yourself or the bottom. Look, with the World Cup being in the middle part of the season, the games are going to come in thick and fast before the World Cup and thick and fast after World Cup. You're going to need a squad that can handle it.
Yeah.
You're going to have to preempt that you're going to get a lot of injuries next season compared to other seasons. You probably get maybe some red cards because players are tired and they start doing the lazy option. You've got to preempt that, especially going into next season. So for me, I agree. This summer, you've got to play catch up. You've got to get the players in the door so that we can handle the rigors and the demands of next season.
Bottom Duda, it's something I hadn't actually thought about until you just brought that up. It just solidifies even more that Conte needs to be backed, to bottom Duda, and really do appreciate your support as well, by the way. Honestly, you're a top man, and you really keep this channel really supported, and really do appreciate you, my man. Adrian Chia saying Kane's scissor kick could have won us all 3 points. It was a beautiful scissor kick. David and I even took a still frame at one stage of his body just torquing in order to get the right position, and it is beautiful. Dave, probably could have been framed if he had scored it. Maybe it goes up in the football museum, one that you have to pay service to in order to see sort of kind of form. It was that beautiful, Adrian. It was that beautiful.
Yeah, it was. It was beautiful. Look, just quickly, I encourage any youngster to go back and look at that, or anybody. Go back and look at when the ball was coming across. Harry Kane's movement. He doesn't just end up in that position and be able to do that. He watches the ball. He tracks the ball. He's on his toes moving with the ball. And then he adjusts his body to be able to get it off. It's absolutely world-class technique. Just for technique alone and how he ends up doing it, I encourage everybody to go back and watch it. Seriously.
Big up, Adrian. Good to see you in here, my man. Always in here on game days, especially Adrian is. Philip Brady saying, won't it really sicken Sky in the media when we get fourth, despite everything, including the Conte to PSG fairy tale last 2 games, a temporary setback. That's the right mentality, Philip. That's the right mentality. Fraud Sports, believe me, Philip, they just hate it when the script, isn't going to their, liking. When they see that, Conte, he's getting the wins. I mean, I didn't remember them talking about, that surge by, Tottenham very much. Felt like, really wasn't really spoken about, how much it took for Antonio Conte to get this squad to this position in the first place. But the moment things don't go well for 2 weeks, listen, they're all over us, Fraud Sports, Philip. But I don't need to tell you. I mean, this guy knows them inside and out, Dave. He knows all their tricks.
Yeah, look, it's. I've been saying this for years. Sky Sports and the Premier League and the English FA, they're against Tottenham Hotspur.
I mean, Philip, to be kind to you, Dave, Philip's been saying it, for probably since the dawn of man. This guy knows all their tricks. That's what he said.
Look, me and Philip are the same. Look, we even believe VAR is brought in to help some of them other teams to restore what they had once before. Look, I can understand why Sky hate Tottenham, because Tottenham probably charged them more money to do anything with Tottenham for Sky Sports than what any other club does. He probably rinses them. I understand why they hate him. Believe me. I mean, us fans, a lot of fans hate him. But I just we get top 4. I cannot wait to see their faces. I cannot wait. And you best believe it's the first time I'll ever do it, but I'll be at them on social media, absolutely everything. I'll be all over it. And then once I'm finished with Fraud Sports, I'll go on to all the other rival fans and I'll just type in, your team get battered everywhere they go, because I'm sick of teams singing that us. But Philip, absolutely spot on. They will absolutely be raging. Be raging. And I love your takes on fraud sports. Never change.
It's the best one of the
Never.
business.
They entertain me. They're so entertaining.
You have to keep it, and Philip, I know, I just imagine, I just see you there, just probably just trying to enjoy your day, maybe just have something on in the background, and then you just hear fraud sports just yet again, just cause, absolute torment to this club. And I feel bad for you, Philip, because honestly, you're just trying to enjoy your day sometimes, just try to have something on in the background. But big up, Philip. Really do
Philip's
appreciate
trying to have a
you,
cup of tea, and then he hears Graham Souness bark on about Tottenham, and the tea's all over the TV then. It's not fair.
Another big theme from this game, Dave, was Dyer being absolutely sloppy. And I mean, what we said, no rush, no urgency, and also just being sloppy on the ball. I think we've, really slammed home plenty of times that he's, showed no urgency. But Dave, even when he did pass the ball, he was just extraordinarily sloppy on it as well. This was a flat-footed pass that he played to Ben Davies. It ends up getting pressed, I believe, might have been,
Just
I think it could have been Embuemo there. It's hard to remember, but it gets passed to Ben Davies. Ben Davies has no time on the ball, side foots it over to Sessegnon. Sessegnon then just gives up the ball. But it really actually all stemmed from Dyer, because, Dave, when we were watching back the game, we were like, what is Sessegnon doing there? Like, how does he give up the ball? And then we actually realized it all just came from this really atrocious pass from Eric Dyer. And it also actually, Dave, just to maybe, show a bit of a theme here, he does it again, where there's another situation where Dyer has multiple passes available to him, but instead he goes for maybe not a bad pass, to be fair, but plays a short, flat-footed, inaccurate. It was all three, missed all the marks, inaccurate, short, a bit, too little on it to Sonny, and it ends up getting taken. I believe that's Janelt or whoever, went and took it when he had all these passes available to him. And it just was a bit of a theme here, Dave, from Eric Dyer, that not only wasn't urgent, not only was he not taking risks, not only was he not, trying to make things happen from this position, he also was just playing silly, boneless, brainless passes as well.
Look, go back to the first image. Yeah, this one, perfect, right? Now, Jack, we're talking about trying to get top four. We're talking about trying to get Champions League. We're in an underdog situation. We've got fucking 12 players to try and push us there, plus a world-class manager, right? Now, when you have such limited players and you're supposedly hungry for this is what you want, because he was talking to the Spurs media team today saying, we want top four. We're going to do everything about it. Okay, Dyer, well, that starts on the pitch. This is 3 minutes and 40 seconds into the game. He is doing this at walking pace. And Jack, I say this every game that we start with Dyer. Why is he doing stuff at walking pace, taking 4 or 5 touches? And the reason why I go mad about doing things at walking pace, let me tell you why, is because you make mistakes. You're taught as a 5-year-old, be on your toes. And the reason why, and then you go to your coach, why do I have to be on my toes? Okay, because you need to be able to be on your toes to receive the ball. If someone comes to try and nick it in off you, you're not standing flat-footed. You're on the ball. You're already on your toes, so you can try and make something happen. You're less likely to get caught on the ball, and you're less likely to make mistakes and do the right thing. Dyer does this at walking pace, then thinks he can just stroll a pass out to Ben Davies, undercooks that pass, and Buemo takes undercooks the pass, put Davies under trouble. Davies then in turns put Sessegnon under pressure. Then they take the ball to go up and get a corner kick from it. It's not good enough. This is 3 minutes into the game. Fucking Moonhead knows we cannot defend set pieces. He knows it, Jack. He's a massive part of the problem why we can't defend set pieces. But yeah, he's going to put us under pressure on the back line like that because he's too lazy and his head is too big for him to be on his toes. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the guy's had a good season. But my God, Jack, you're being paid 100 grand a week. Be on your toes. You're not on your toes. This happens. He puts us under pressure, leads to a corner. No, we can't defend him. It's just
same thing here, though. Same thing here, Dave. Not an athletic stance, not being agile, not being on his toes here, and he plays an equally shitty pass to Sonny. Here that just ends up leading. This one actually leads to their one play from open play. This leads to, because all their chances, came from corners and set pieces, but this is the one chance that they truly did create from open play, and it came from a poor giveaway by Dyer.
Jack, this is 5 yards. This is what I've been going mad about Tottenham for the last 2 years. It's 5 yards. If I miss that pass in training, I'm being sent on laps around the pitch. Oh, why am I being sent on laps? Because I can guarantee you will not miss that pass when you come back because you're bollocks and you don't want to run again. You will not miss that pass. It's 5 yards. These are the basics of football. What he does, passes it straight to a Brentford player when there's actually more Tottenham players around him. I think it's actually more impossible for him to pass it to a Brentford player. But somehow, Jack, he passes it straight to a Brentford player. It's just things like this that cost us. Again, it led to them having a chance. You cut out them 2 mistakes. You take 2 chances off Brentford, and especially from earlier on, they don't get any joy, and it probably becomes a little bit of a different game, Jack. You know?
Yeah.
When you give these teams joy, and then you're left standing there scratching your head every week, why are these guys pressing me? Because they know you're going to be flat-footed and they know you're going to make a mistake. And until you rectify that, expect to be pressed.
Another big theme here, Dave, that we noticed was that we just simply cannot defend set pieces. Just simply cannot defend them. And this was the big one here, Dave. It was the same play that we saw them run probably 3 or 4 different occasions. I feel like in the first half alone, it was Pontus Jansson, I think Roroslev, and maybe one of their other center backs that was holding off Romero, especially. Pontus Jansson was responsible for Romero every time, holding off either Ben Davies or Dyer, or also holding off Bentancur, trying to hold off all of our tall players that would be capable of winning off a header. Maybe the first time they played it, you kind of maybe understand. Maybe you give Spurs a break there where it's like, okay, you know, that's a design play. It's a set play that they're going for. But the fact that they had gotten away with it on more than 3 different occasions in the first half alone is where we really knew that we were just not up for the fight here. You can see this image of it here. Again, you can see them all intentionally blocking off the player. You can even see the ball actually already coming into frame as well. So you do know that they're already doing this as the ball is hit. We also have even a video of them actually trying to go for it as well. You know, just trying to replay here just on the tactics board here where you can actually see basically it's, you know, the moment that the ball is kicked, you know, by Eriksson, all they're doing is just trying to press away the likes of Romero, Bentancur, and Davies so that Tony can just fade away and go for a first-time hit. It's really the big thing here, too, as well, is that with this hit here, Dave, that he's going for, it's not like he's exactly going for goal or anything. What he's really just going for is just to create chaos with it. And like I said, Dave, the fact they got away with it maybe the first time, maybe you give Spurs a pass. Maybe you're just like, do you know what? Didn't see that coming. Didn't expect that sort of design play. But the fact that we allowed them to do it on 3 separate occasions and they didn't punish us for it. I think it's one thing we really got away with.
Look, Jack, the reason why we brought up the video and the reason why I wanted the video to be made was it just to show Ivan Toney's run. He made that run 3 times with no one picking him up. Nobody. 3 times. I can accept a training routine against us, a set piece routine from the training ground against us once. But after once, surely you think, okay, Ivan Toney's standing there alone again. I wonder, are they going to go for this again? Well, instead of wondering, get over there and fucking mark them because there's a highly likely that they are going to go for it again. And not only that, Jack, you think, okay, it's been done to us twice. Surely it's unforgivable at this level for it to work a 3rd time. And they've done it a 3rd time. Within like a space of 20 minutes. I mean, look, don't get me wrong. You know, they've done very well. It was a clear play. Get the ball to the back post. Ivan Toney hit that first time into the bodies, and hopefully we get a ricochet into the goal, or you get a sweet connection on it and it goes in. Look, Pontus Jansson is blocking. They have players that are blocking our players, which means we couldn't get out to Ivan Toney. But you've also got 3-4 players there standing there with their hands on the hips. Who are they marking? Who are they marking? Which one of them lost Ivan Toney all 3 times? You know, we struggle from defending set pieces when they're just whipped into an area, let alone us leaving 3 men from set pieces to have free shots at our goals. It's unforgivable. Again, it comes down to basics. Switching off. Who back there is talking? Who back there is the leader and saying, guys, not letting that happen again. One of you get on Ivan Toney. Who? Nobody.
Well, you can even see Eric Dyer is standing next to his own Spurs player, and it's not even getting marshaled off, Dave, because they just know it's Moonhead, and all he's just going to be doing is just watching the ball here, and he doesn't even see this Toney run. If anybody that's really responsible for it, I would actually say it is Dyer, because he's the one that's not getting pushed off here. He's actually the one that, you know, isn't actually getting blocked, and he's actually is sort of responsible for Tony by default then when you really look at it, because the rest of them are being kind of, shoved off, being pulled, being kind of dragged. He's the one who's just Dave. He's just sitting here looking at the ball, just sitting here watching the ball.
Yeah, exactly. Ball watching. Difference between Dyer and Romero. Romero goes and sees that ball and he wants it. Dyer looks at that ball like, oh, it's after going over my head. Wonder where that's going. Seriously.
Yeah.
It's unforgivable for the same set piece to happen 3 times within 20 minutes. Unforgivable. And again, it comes down to basics, comes down to desire, hunger. How much do you want a clean sheet? How much do you want Champions League football? Well, that gave me all the answers I need to know. This was not happening. We, at least against Newcastle and West Ham and Aston Villa, we were contesting the set pieces. At least we were contesting them.
Yeah.
This game, didn't contest them.
Another theme, that's not it, when it came to, defending set pieces that poorly. There was other examples, everybody. Another one here was the fact that this is a Christian Eriksen free kick from kind of a deep position outside the box. It comes in. What I found really frustrating, Dave, and again, this is something you pointed out to me, was originally I was criticizing Emerson, but you kind of said, like, hold on, maybe give him a break here, despite how clueless he may be. Look at the fact that there are really only 2 Brentford players in the box right there, but the majority of them are actually on the other side of Emerson, or on the other side, or basically all responsible for Emerson. You can make out 3 different Brentford players here that Emerson is actually sort of responsible for, but all the Spurs players are actually bunched up in the middle here, maybe marking just 1 or 2 Brentford players that are the threat, when in fact the real threats are at the back post. Eriksen's cross is actually designed, and it actually goes intentionally for the back post there for Emerson. And it's another one that we get away with because, I don't know, Dave, just players not switched on, maybe just not thinking that they're responsible, ball watching, just the same sort of themes here again.
Well, Jack, the reason why you're seeing 2 Spurs players mark each other there, Dyer and Bentancur, what again, is Casper in between them? Casper the Ghost? It's absolutely ridiculous. This comes down to communication. This is being set up, this free kick. You get Davies to mark that guy there. You get Dyer to mark that guy. You push Bentancur. And all you have to do is push one man over each. But that comes down to communication. Who's the leader at the back? Who's making these calls? Nobody. No. When a free kick is coming in like that, you should not have 2 Spurs players marking each other. You should not have another 2 there marking each other. And then Emerson at the back with two players. Look, it's very easy to go, oh, that's Emerson's fault. But when you look at it, all our Spurs players have to do is just push across one, pick up the Brentford players. There's no danger there. But because there's no one communicating that or being the leader and organising it back there, this happens. And Jack, this also happened against Brighton.
Yeah. Very similar chance happened against Brighton, right? This is another one, Dave. This is one that went off the bar from an Ivan Toney header. I think really, I don't know how much we need to talk about this, but it's something I've been pointing out with Stats with Jack all the time, Dave. It's what I said to you is our players that are our best shot at winning the ball in the air, our players that are our best, chances at, clearing the ball away from the box are Dyer and Romero. And the biggest saddest point here, Dave, is that you could probably say neither of them are actually that good, clearing their lines, in the air. Neither of them are actually that good at being, a real threat in the air to get the ball out of the box. And it showed here because Dyer and Romero ended up getting absolutely destroyed by Ivan Toney. He ends up jumping before them. They almost get in each other's way. They're marking each other on this header here. But Dave, I think that's a thing. That's something we will have to be worried about for the remainder of these games for the rest of the season, is that Dyer and Romero are our best chance of getting a ball cleared away from a corner kick, but they're not, or even a set piece, but they're not even that good themselves at even clearing the ball away. So we will continue, I imagine, to struggle from set pieces. I don't really know, apart from, staying more switched on, apart from, maybe, not thinking that it's someone else's job. I really do expect us to continue to probably have some sketchy moments, Dave, from set pieces, because we simply don't even have good enough players in the air. And it's probably why Sean has even emphasized that the center backs that we do bring in need to be quality in the air, because we've been really lacking in that department.
Yeah, 100%. Just quality in the air. This guy's off the ground about 2 minutes before Eric Dyer and Romero, about 2 minutes before, and wins that header. And it, is this the one that came off the bar or the post? I can't remember.
The bar, yeah, it came off the bar. Yeah.
Off the bar. It's just so, look, I can kind of forgive Romero in the air. Look, don't get me wrong. He has to get better in the air. He cost us against Burnley. Do not get me wrong. But Jack, actually, speaking of Burnley, before they scored that set piece, they also done another one similar to that 5 minutes beforehand. It's been like, and again, it just highlights we don't learn from set pieces. We do not learn. But Romero is good on the ball. He's proactive about going defending. I cannot forgive Moonhead, who was there to win all these headers, be the big guy, but also be shit on the ball and not winning the headers and let the striker get off the ground before him. I mean, honestly, what is the guy doing? What is he out there to do if he can't do the defensive right?
Another quick theme here is Højbjerg is simply not the problem. I think you'll like this image. Yeah, Højbjerg absolutely sauces this man here. It skips by him looking like Højbjerginho. But really, this is just a quick thing, and it's mostly something that I just wanted to bring up. And I think Dave, has validated me, with this before. I think Højbjerg has been the opposite of the problem the past 2 games. And in fact, in some of our worst games in the last 6 or 7, maybe some of our worst performances, Højbjerg has often stood out as actually being the best performer. And you could even go as far to say as in the Brighton game and the Brentford game, Højbjerg was the one that created the majority of our best chances. You look at the Brighton game, he skinned past that player with that beautiful Zidane turn, another one that you probably put those emojis with again. And then he puts a nice ball across the 6 that Reguilón doesn't finish. That was probably our best chance against Brighton, self-created by Højbjerg. You look at that one that we looked at earlier, where that Emerson pass into Harry Kane, that pass that went into Emerson from that long ball came from Højbjerg from a deep lying position. And then this one here where he absolutely sauces on Jensen and then just plays a decent ball in to either Kulusevski or Sonny. Sonny misses it. Kulusevski just makes a poor attempt at it and nothing happens from it. But Højbjerg, I mean, he's been the last person on this team that has been the problem. And in fact, when you really look at it, has probably created their 2 best chances of the last 2 games as well. And so for me, Dave, I know Højbjerg isn't everybody's favorite player, but he has not been the problem the last 2 games. And we're just talking about the last 2 games, has not been the problem.
Look, for me, I think he's actually been our best creative player the last 2 games. Against Brighton, he created our best 2 chances. And against Brentford, our best 2 chances came from Højbjerg. Look, I'm seeing a recurrent theme here over the last couple of games, or anytime we've lost this season. As soon as we lose, everyone canes Harry Kane and Pierre-Emile Højbjerg. All of a sudden, Kane has to come off, or Kane was shit, and Højbjerg is not good enough. Go back and look at the game. It's not true. Højbjerg is the one that has created our best chances. So if he's not good enough for this Tottenham team, who is?
There you go, Dave.
Who is? The thing is, sorry, just quickly that. When we lose, stop blaming players who have actually been trying to affect the game over the last couple of games. Stop blaming them players.
Yeah.
Look at other players. Kane was included in all the build-up to attacks or assists over the last couple of games. Couldn't get into the game the last 2 games for various reasons, with teams blocking up the middle and etc., etc. Who else is stepping up to do it? Højbjerg's trying. Anyone else outside of that? So let's stop getting on to the players that are actually trying to affect these games. Let's stop going for the easy targets every single time.
Let's not go for the players that are trying to give their all in order to get us to the spots that we need to be. Well said, Dave. This one is just quick again. I feel like David Romero is the only one that is trying to do exactly what we've been asking from our center backs. A bit more urgency, a bit more risks, trying to actually make things happen from those positions that we know that you can make things happen. And this was a prime example when Romero actually here in the beginning of the game finds the ball and then he just zips one into Kane. Instead of wanting to take 3-4 touches on it and just giving it back to Dyer, Romero knows what he's going to do with it before he receives it, fires one into Kane. Kane actually ends up getting a good attempt on goal actually from it, just ends up getting blocked, I believe. But this was what we've been asking from Eric Dyer. And this is what we've been asking for Ben Davies, is to actually show a bit more urgency, show a bit more kind of, take a bit more risk on it. And you can actually find the rewards from it. And if anybody remembers this chance, it is coming from a Romero situation of him just wanting to actually take a bit of, urgency on the ball and just show that, maybe you're not supposed to just dwell on it and, just pass it back and forth. He decides to fire it into Harry Kane, and it almost leads to a good opportunity for us. And it's what we need to see more of from our center backs, not just Romero. And especially given that, our right-hand side with Emerson is so lackluster and so uncreative, Romero is just going to need to continue to do this, for games to come. And it's just another theme that I feel like we noticed.
Yeah, look, for me, I think the reason why Romero does it is because he can do it, Jack. You know, he has that pass in him. We've seen that arrow long ball that he played to Harry Kane against Aston Villa for the flick on a couple of times. I mean, the difference between him and Dyer is Dyer doesn't want to do it. If this is Dyer in this position, he turns back and he passes it backwards 5 yards. Whereas Romero takes the risk, and this is what I'm talking about. Look at what Romero's doing here compared to what Dyer was doing when he was on the ball. In order to break these teams down, these are the exact sort of passes you've got to make. And where did this pass go? Right into Harry Kane's feet. Not 20 yards above him, not 5 yards to the left or 5 yards to the right, straight into Harry Kane's feet. And this is how you break down these teams. Passes like that around the player through the lines, rather than going, oh, don't have the capability of doing that, so I'm going to go backwards and pass it 5 yards, which is what Dyer was doing in that game, which was slowing everything down. When Romero got on the ball and quickened it up, hey presto, spaces open up. Not hard, it's not rocket science. It's not.
Not rocket science. But everybody, I hope you enjoyed all those still images. Again, let's maybe just bring up those themes one more time that we did notice. One of them is Romero is the only one taking risks on the ball. Another one was that Højbjerg simply has not been the problem in the last 2 games. Another one is that we have been atrocious from set pieces and we haven't figured out any sort of way to even learn from how other teams do their set pieces. We don't notice patterns. We don't notice what they've been doing the last time. It's just been absolutely just honestly F of a grade, like an absolute F in that marking. And then Dyer's been sloppy on the ball. No, we talked about no urgency, but he's also just been simply sloppy on it. Been everything that you could been exactly the opposite from what you want from him. We were talking about some moments where people are just being a bit wasteful. Started with maybe Sonny's cross towards the end of the game, where he just simply didn't put in the ball that we saw him do against Watford, that won us the game. So why can't he do that, in this situation when we need him most against Brentford? Harry Kane had 2 moments where just maybe didn't make the right decision is when you really look at it. Just, went for maybe a different sort of attempt that is maybe probably when you really look back on it is maybe not the right sort of decision. And it just ended up being wasted as well. You look at another opportunity where Bentancur just wasted a free header at the corner. Ben Davies at the end of the game, dying minutes of the game, dying seconds, just passes the ball out of play when we're basically going full throttle at the goal. Just absolutely shocking there. And then Sessegnon had a few different occasions in really good positions where he didn't do anything of it. And that was the theme of being wasteful in the final third and other chances. But Dave, I think we have a very, very special message from our sponsors, Manscaped, for this tactical breakdown. Everybody, we came up with a really good video talking about them, and I do hope that you enjoy it, and everybody as well. Put a lot of hard work and a lot of comedy and a lot of kind of humor into this one. So I would encourage you guys to watch it throughout because I do feel like you'll enjoy it.
100%, but just quickly as well, don't be afraid to get over to Manscaped. I know so many of you used it before. That's why Manscaped want to come back and give us that promotional code so that maybe you can get top-ups on some of the products you've already got. But also, guys, summer's coming around the corners. The hedges need trimming, So Manscaped are here for you guys out there. Look, we're not in lockdown anymore. Everything's open. Everybody's out dating. Everybody's horny. And that's why you need Manscaped. No one wants to go down there and be flossing with pubes, guys. So, that's why it needs to be baby smooth. And plus, absolutely, gives you a few extra inches, which you're about to find out.
There you go. Absolutely, Dave. It's a game of inches. Fellas, sit down and listen up. We were all over the place out there, and there is hair everywhere. This is the biggest battle of your lives. We are in hell right now, gentlemen.
Now we can stay here and hide from our hair below, or we can get Manscaped's Performance Package 4.0 and do something about it. Fight back 1 inch at a time.
Now I can't do it for you, but I look around and I see your faces and I see the shame. I see the guilt. I see the embarrassment.
But thankfully, we at the Irish Hotspur have teamed up with Manscaped to help you inch by inch, pube by pube.
We know when you get old in life, hair grows and grows and grows. It's a natural part of life, minute by minute, day by day. The pubes, they just keep on growing and growing. Not only on the crown jewels, but the hair grows in your nose, in your ears as well. We also know, though, that life is busy every minute and every second counts. And it can be easy to neglect yourself, gentlemen. But you will find out that in life, if you don't love yourself, no one else will love you. And that is life. And life is a game of inches.
Manscaped is crucial, and the margin for error is so small for the inches we need. When you add up all them inches, that's the difference between giving someone a good time and giving someone a time they will never, ever forget. So on this team, we fight for that inch.
And we use the weed whacker for that inch. And we use the plow 2.0 for that inch. And we use the lawnmower 4.0 for that inch.
We know once we add up all them inches, that Manscaped is the difference between winning and losing. Between going home alone or going home with someone.
On any given night, it's the guy willing to die for a hairless body who wins that inch. And then I know if I'm going to have the best chance at life, it's because I am grooming for that extra inch.
Because that's what living is, gentlemen. It's that 6 inches in front of your face. But tonight, look at your partner. Look at them in the eyes. They will see a guy who's willing to go that inch for them.
They will see a guy who's part of the Manscaped team. And that guy, that teammate, uses the ball reviver and he uses the ball toner to achieve that desired finish for them and for you. Because you know, when it comes to it, they do the same thing for you. That's what a team is, gentlemen.
The moral of the story is that in life, inches matter. So trim that bush. Let's get after them pubes. It's Manscaped, guys. That's all it is. Now what are you going to do?
Manscaped, it's a game of inches, everybody. Dave, if only they knew. If only Spurs knew, it's down to a game of inches.
No, look, life comes down to fine margins. It's a matter of inches. And like I said, inches, even 1 inch is the difference between giving a lady or your partner a good time or a time they'll never forget. And that's why you need to get to Manscaped. And look, every inch counts. Every man can do with that extra inch. So look, get over to Manscaped, guys, and get their products. And look, we wouldn't put them to you if they weren't good, if they weren't tried and tested. Believe me, Lawnmower 4.0, it's waterproof, so you do not have to worry about water on your pitch. You can just go shave away anyway. And then you've got the ball toner, ball reviver, very, very good. Keeps down there smelling nice and fresh, you know, especially if you're going out on a night out and you get lucky. It's always good to have the products for down there as well. And look, guys, Manscaped only want to help you out. They only want to help you out with your love life and, you know, make you feel better as a person and make you feel good. So if you do not like hair, Manscaped is for you. Get over there and they have products for absolutely all your needs. They have the Plow 2.0 for the face and they've got the Lawnmower 4.0 for down there. And then they've even got the weed whacker. And I know some of you think it might be another thing, but it's not. It's for your nose and for your ears, not something you can smoke.
Everybody, there you are, everybody. And also as well, use that code FLATCAP. You know, like it said throughout the video, use that code FLATCAP, get 20% off everything at the Manscaped store. And really, they really do like, you know, everybody that did use the code before. So many people used the code last time that they decide to partner with us again. And we really would appreciate everybody is that if you are thinking about upgrading your life, if you are thinking about making this a game of inches, feel free to use that code 20% FLATCAP to get that 20% off when you do head on over to Manscaped. But Dave, start moving on. I think, you know, moving on to, I believe, the player stats and everything. Seems like everybody really did enjoy the video. But everybody really would appreciate if you guys, if you are feeling like upgrading the life, if you are thinking about making it into a game of inches, do head on over there and use that code FLATCAP to get the 20% off. But Dave, moving on here to Sessegnon. We're just finishing off with some stats before we let everybody off to the Champions League. Sessegnon against Brentford. We're just kind of showing, I think, just a really dismal performance from the kid. 3 crosses the whole game, more than Emerson, but 0 shot creating actions, 4 progressive carries, which is what we're looking for from a wing back, but that's actually very few of them. Passes out of bounds and intercepted, a total of 5. Key passes, 0, which a key pass is any pass that leads directly to a shot. And then players dribble past, also 0. So Dave, when you really look at the categories of these stats, so, players dribble pass, key passes, progressive carries, shot creating actions, crosses, these are all the markings of what would be a creative fullback. You would want a creative fullback to get really good stats in all these areas, but it's just really poor and really dismal.
Look, I think it is worth pointing out, first of all, it is more than what Reguilon produced last week.
Yeah, good point.
But with Reguilon last week, we were more on the back foot. We had less possession than Brighton, and that will reflect in Reguilon and Emerson's game. But look, I believe he should have stuck with Reguilon this game. Even simple things, it's like when we do get the ball down the right-hand side, we've had Reguilon or we've had Doherty when he played over the left come crashing in on, at the far post. We just did not get that from Sessegnon. Desire, the hunger wasn't there to be able to get in at the far post and create that extra overlap or that extra crossing option. And look, at the end of the day, fair play to him. I mean, more progressive carries than Reguilon last week, but done absolutely jack shit with it. Done absolutely nothing with it. And for me, I want to see Reguilon back in there for the Leicester game. I think he gives us more going forward. It may not give us more exactly on the ball going forward, but in terms of getting into the box, he offers me a lot more going forward than what Sessegnon does.
Yeah, and also maybe just finds himself in the positions to be available for the ball more often than Sessegnon does. I think that's the big difference between the two. But let's look at someone who's equally as poor from the wing-back position, if not worse. Emerson, one cross. Let's maybe compare the two since I used all the same stats anyway. Sessegnon had 3, Emerson had 1. Shot creating actions, though, which I think is actually more of a better stat, for maybe if someone had an impact on the game. Sessegnon had 0, whereas Emerson had 2. And 2 is not very many, but the fact that he did have 2, in comparison, shows that he had more of an impact on any sort of chances that were created. Progressive carries, 1 versus the 4 that Sessegnon had. So Sessegnon, obviously a much better carrier of the ball, a lot more brave on the ball, but simply still didn't do enough. Passes out of bounds and intercepted, 1 where he had 5, Sessegnon did. But maybe, Dave, we said Emerson before, a bit like Harry Winks, a bit of a stat patter. So that was probably why not many of his passes were intercepted or really went out of bounds, because he doesn't really take any risks with it. Key passes for Emerson, 1. I think Sessegnon had 0 in that mark. And then Emerson dribble past 1 player where Sessegnon dribble past 0. So you could make the case that Emerson maybe had a better game, but it was just equally dog. You know what I'm going to say, Dave? Equally just bad. Equally bad.
Go on, Jack. You can swear once. Let it out now. Let your
Equally
frustrations
dog
out.
shit, Dave. Equally dog shit from either of them. But maybe the point I'm trying to make here, Dave, is that we know Emerson's the worst one, but he ended up probably having more of an impact. I don't know. But I mean, I know stats are kind of stupid like that, where it's like, what does it really matter? Which one had more impact? Neither of them had any impact whatsoever. But maybe that's what I'm just trying to point out here, is that the narrative would say that Sessegnon is our best fullback or our best wingback, but he had it, in fact, in my opinion, an even worse game than Emerson did that game at the end. And for me, I noticed lots of times that, and I even said during the watch on commentary, that Emerson was, I thought, actually weirdly better than, Sessegnon was on the day. And that's not saying much.
Look, better than last week, Emerson. I mean, last week there was a lot of zeros there. Look, the one thing I can't forgive, Jack, is the passes out of bounds. Like that pass out of bounds, it was one that went out of bounds, because if you remember, near the end of the game, actually, and he was actually hauled off straight after, it was 80 plus something minutes. He went to just play a 15-yard ball to Sanchez and ended up overhitting it and hitting it out over to the far side for a throw into them. It's little mistakes like that that just take away your momentum, give them momentum. And, it's just stupid things like that. Look, in fairness, though, going forward, I don't know how, but he had more end product than Sessegnon and was probably up there a lot less than what Sessegnon was as well, to be honest with you. But, Jack, it's all the other things at times, At one stage, he had Kulusevski in front of him, a 5-yard pass. Simple, could have got on his knees and blowed the ball, and it would have went to Kulusevski. Puts his foot on it and completely misses Kulusevski, and he's 5 yards in front of him. I mean, it's things like that that take away from Emerson's game. If he got things like that right, and cut out some of them misplaced passes and stuff like that, you'd be talking about a different Emerson today. I just don't think he has it in him. Look, he has moments in him, I think, Jack, is probably the right way to describe this guy. He has a moment in him where he can get forward and he can pick that right pass, but it's how often does he do it? It's not often
Yeah.
enough. But I agree with you. Going forward, better than them, better than Session. I was so pissed off at Session. Yes, Session got forward more and into better positions, but he done nothing with it. Whereas Emerson actually got created 2-shot created actions with it, and that's the difference. But
And he
again,
played that
I
pass to
want
Harry
more.
Kane, which probably was the best self-created chance maybe on the day. Because Emerson actually did something with it when he did receive it. As good as Højbjerg's pass was to Emerson, Emerson had a good touch, took it down, took it into the box, played it to Kane, did all that he needed to do there, to set Kane up to score. Sessegnon didn't do anything similar on that day. And I think that's where we're talking about. We're talking about one chance. That's the difference between the two. But I think you have to mention it. Continuing on that narrative, Dave, that I thought Højbjerg didn't have a bad day at all. Passes into the final third, 13 passes into the final third. And in fact, that was the most, I think, of any player. As well, Dave, kind of just shows that despite the middle being really, kind of clogged up and, really difficult, Højbjerg did whatever he could, to try to get the ball up the pitch. It shows that also he's not as much of a sideways passer as people want to make him out to be. The fact that he has 10 progressive passes and 13 passes into the final third in one match alone. He had 3 progressive carries, which is nearly as many as Sessegnon did have, which is also a bit, kind of scary to think about. Passes made under pressure, completed 8 of them, had 1 key pass, which is one pass that leads to a shot, and had 4 shot creating actions. So Højbjerg, like you even, I think, said, Dave, weirdly in the past 2 games has actually been probably on average our most creative player in actually the past 2 games.
No, he has. Look, it's
And the stats sort of more or less reflect that, in
Jack,
this Brentford game.
there's this whole narrative around Højbjerg that he can't pass a ball, he can only tackle. It's not true. It's not true. If that's what you want to go looking for when you watch this guy, yeah, you'll find it. But you're also ignoring all the other times he does get on the ball. He does pass forward. He can play forward. And look, for me, like I said, you go back to the Brighton game, 2 best chances were created by Højbjerg. Some of the best chances in this game that we had, or even getting into the box, all started with Højbjerg, created by Højbjerg. This guy is a lot better than what people give him credit for. Look, a lot of people are calling this guy off what they were seeing in beside Harry Winks. But, I mean, let's be real. You could put Roy Keane in beside Harry Winks, and Roy Keane would just look shit. Roy Keane would look like a dog crap beside Harry Winks because you're doing a 2-man job on your own, and that's the difference. Forget about what he was doing in beside Harry Winks and concentrate on what he's doing now. Anyone that says this guy can't pass the ball, doesn't offer us enough in midfield, you're sadly mistaken. He's given us more in the last 2 games in teams that sit lower block than what Bentancur has. And Bentancur was the one brought in to be designed to be able to break down these things. So get off Højbjerg back.
Yeah. And actually someone who I think, in fact, repaired sort of that really bad performance against Brighton. I thought he had a much better display against Brentford. He had 8 passes into the final third. I mean, nowhere near as much as Højbjerg's 13, but certainly a lot better than I remember Brighton. 6 progressive passes in comparison to Højbjerg's 10. But I think what's really good to see, and this is where we saw that he was a bit better for this one, 13 progressive carries from Bentancur. So, Dave, he was trying to make things happen. He's trying to be more like a Moussa Dembele, that sort of game where he's trying to carry the ball up on his own legs and trying to be that creative force that we just felt like he wasn't doing, against Brighton. And so I thought it was a lot better from him. And I think those progressive carries are certainly the thing I want us to highlight. But the passes made under pressure, 6, 0 key passes, though, at the end of the day, and only 2 shot creating action, only 2. But I thought a bit better from Bentancur. I thought, a bit better. Nowhere near as good of a day as Højbjerg had by far, but I thought a lot better because the Brighton one was a scarily poor performance, I thought, from him. And so this was a lot better.
Do you know what, Jack? Look, what you're seeing there in terms of Lolo's stats is kind of reflecting on what I thought in the game. Yes, he was on the ball a lot more. He didn't do enough with it. He didn't excite me with it. Like he's excited me since he's come in. Like he excited me up until I think it was that Aston Villa game. He was anonymous, even though he slapped him. But up until that game, this guy excited me. He got on the ball. He turned. He sprayed that ball 30, 40 yards. He could put it to Harry Kane's feet. I'm just not seeing that of late. He's just getting on the ball. He's just doing the 5 yards, running with it, putting it out to the side. I just want to see a bit more from him like I was seeing when he first came in.
Yeah. I agree, Dave. I do agree. Sonny versus Brentford. I thought maybe the best of the front three at the end of the day. Maybe put in a lot of effort. I don't know if he actually created a lot, which is actually the funny part with Sonny. I don't know if he did a great job at creating a ton, but he showed a lot of effort, which is kind of what we were asking for.
Yeah.
He showed urgency, Dave. Like we kind of spoke, this is the big keyword, urgency. I remember Sonny, every time he picked up the ball, went for some sort of 1-2 pass, went for some sort of flick on, or something like that. Even if it didn't pull off, it felt like he was trying to get things going, but wasn't really being as creative as I know he can be. So it's kind of this funny, David, like it's a funny comparison of like, I feel like these stats are showing how hard he was working, but they don't really show how creative he really was, because carries into the final third, he has a lot, but shot creating actions, he only has as many as Højbjerg did, you know? And then carries in, or passes into the penalty area. I think that shows he's trying to make things happen, trying to play people in. And then the 10 progressive carries, I think, is really shows, Sonny working hard, in that case, because he's trying to carry the ball forward with his own 2 legs. But then only ends up having 2 key passes and only 0 shots. So how do I describe it, Dave? Like a really hardworking performance where you would never even put Sonny in that ballpark of, or that camp of, wasn't really putting any effort out there, didn't really want it. I don't think you could say that at all. I think he was really actually being more of an example, but wasn't being as creative as I thought he could have been. And in fact, wasted that one opportunity, especially from that free kick as well. So a hardworking Sonny, but not a very creative Sonny on the day is how I would describe it.
100%. Look, I will never ever criticize a player for trying things. Never. And in fairness to Sonny Jack, he was dropping deep trying to get on the ball and he was trying to make things happen. But again, like everybody else in the squad, when it came down to decision making, it was not there. You go back and look at the game. Son found himself in good positions due to good endeavour and good hard work. But then the pass was crap.
Yeah,
the pass wasn't to a Tottenham player. You look at the free kick, Poor. There was another time the ball was to him. If he takes that touch and puts it forward, he's got 2 players running off him, and he makes that pass, we're in. He takes the touch, bad touch sideways. They take the ball off him, crowd him out, and then come back at us. And it's just little things like that. It's just, again, it's just down to basics, Jack. Look, I'm not criticizing the guy because he was trying to make the difference. But just like everybody else, just that final product was not there.
I think you put that well. Like, you can't fault the guy for trying, but when he did find himself in the positions of earning his hard work got him in the positions to do something, exceptional. And he just, at the end of the day, just didn't.
And I agree with you. I do think he was the best out of our front three. Like I said, he tried to affect the game.
Yeah. I think, but it's, again, not saying very much. This is sad stats to see, and it just shows how little Harry Kane was allowed to do. It just showed how few opportunities he was given. 1 pass into the final third, 1 shot creating action, 1 progressive carry, 1 progressive pass, 0 key passes, 4 shots though, was able to get 4 shots off the board. To be honest, Dave, one of those shots we did point out, I wish he did a lot better with.
Yeah.
Because he could end up having these stats, Dave, right? He could end up having these stats still, but he could, if he had done better with one of those shots, you could say, still got his goal, still, had that striker's finish, because you could end up having a dismal display, on the pitch, but you can be a striker that will end up just grabbing the goal when you're given that opportunity, just be ruthless. And you just take that chance, and then your stats can be garbage for the rest of the game. But as long as you took that chance, no one really cares. And I think this was a good opportunity for Harry Kane to do that, if you know what I mean. This was a good opportunity for him to, to take a chance, that was given to him, and then he could have done nothing for the rest of the game. But everybody would have said, "Oh, well, he still got his goal. Harry Kane is still class," yada yada. So. Maybe what I'm saying here is I wish Harry Kane had taken one of those chances, because probably people wouldn't be on his back, had he taken one of those chances.
No, look, I don't think he had a good game. We couldn't get him into the game as a striker, Jack, and I've been there, especially if you are staying up top. You can do all the chasing down to make the opposition go long ball, to give you a chance to recycle it and build back up the pitch, but you rely on the people behind you to get you into the game. Mm-hmm. You rely on the people behind you to create the chances for you. It didn't happen. But then if that doesn't happen, then you also need to say, okay, well, it's not happening. I need to go and get on the ball. I need to make something happen. Now, he couldn't do that purely because, like we explained earlier on, the amount of bodies they put in the middle to just stop that ball whatsoever. All the space was out wide. So, look, maybe if you're thinking about Kane, you could say, look, maybe drift off to the left, to the right, out into the channels. But again, he probably should be doing it, but it's not his game. He's not quick enough to do it. You know, he's just not quick enough to do it. And look, it was a poor performance all around. Poor performance all around. It's games like this where you kind of look at these guys and you're like, give me that one split moment. Like, even that chance he had on the edge of the box. If you're going to strike it, put your bloody laces through it. If anyone has the capabilities of scoring outside the box in this team, it's Harry Kane. So be clever. Look to get the ball on the edge of the box. Look to shift it one touch. Get that strike off. Maybe that's something he could have done a bit different. But I will add, Pontus Jansson was fucking, you may as well give that guy a saddle and named Harry Kane as a horse in the Grand National and let him ride it to victory because, I mean, he was absolutely all over him, dragging out of him, pulling him down. In fact, I actually thought at one stage we probably could have had a penalty for it.
I mean, I honestly thought probably Harry Kane's missus was jealous because Pontus Jansson was all over him more than even the missus was, the night before, Dave. So I think that's how you probably could put it, But lessons learned. I really like this stage because this is where we finally wrap it up, put this Brentford thing into an ugly little bow, and just get rid of this whole performance. Wasteful in the final third. We broke it down with multiple images, multiple moments. I don't think you need to really stress about it anymore. And it wasn't even just one player is the theme. It was a lot of different players that were wasteful in the final third. Not moving the ball quick enough. I think probably the player that's most guilty of that was certainly Eric Dyer. Maybe you could throw Ben Davies in that conversation as well, maybe a bit. But I thought Ben Davies tried, in certain situations. But he can be a bit woeful in possession in certain moments. Bentancur maybe could have been a bit quicker as well. Sessegnon and Emerson were just useless in possession, so it's almost hard to even put them in that bracket. But that was a big emphasis. Sloppy on the ball, probably sloppy on the ball. More has to do with Dyer, Sessegnon, Emerson. I don't even know. This is the problem. Is Emerson even sloppy on the ball? He does what Winks does. He does what Winks does. So, is he even sloppy on the ball? Because all he does is kind of stat pad. Emerson kind of stat pads himself the way he plays possession. So he's not even sloppy on the ball. It's really Sessegnon and Eric Dyer that I thought were really the sloppy ones. Yeah.
There's some, Jack. It's like that transfer stream you done a while ago. Some you put into the red category who are really alarming, sloppy on the ball, and then it filters down. But there's no one in that good category. There's no one in that green category. Everybody was sloppy on the ball. But just quickly on not moving the ball quick enough. The reason why I asked for that to be put in just quickly is purely because you look at the difference in the first half against Brentford compared to the second half. First half, I mean, I found myself going Dyer to Romero to Dyer. Dyer's taking another touch. Oh, Dyer's taking another touch. Oh, he's passed it sideways. But then in the second half, they got a rollicking at halftime. What did Dyer do? One touch, bang. All of a sudden, we're on the ball. Spaces start opening up. But then, so basically, we weren't moving the ball quick enough in the first half. We did in the second half. But what didn't change was the sloppiness on the ball.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Can't defend set pieces. Again, I think the real alarming trait there was just the fact that there were clear patterns of play, clear set piece, kind of strategies they were going for. And it just felt like the players just didn't want to pick up on them or they were too clueless to pick up on them. I don't know which one. Either answer is alarming, to be frank. Whichever situation, it explains it. It's just alarming nonetheless. But yeah, I would say it's something that I hate to say, Dave. I expect us to continue to struggle defending set pieces for the rest of the season. I don't really know what else we can do differently apart from being a bit more switched on and apart from us being a bit less, clueless in certain situations from set pieces. Apart from that, I don't really know what to tell us because we just don't have good enough people at defending set pieces. That's all it is. We just don't.
This isn't just under Conte, by the way. This was
under Nuno. It was actually worse under Nuno.
But this was under Jose Mourinho as well. And the only way of changing this is personnel. You've got two of the best defensive managers in the game, in Jose Mourinho and Conte, who always shows up the defense first. It comes down to personnel. It's been happening for in fact, actually, it was happening underneath Pochettino as well. And it comes down to personnel. It's not coming down to what you're doing on the training ground. It's not coming down to do with, are you working on these on the training ground or tactics or anything like
I
that.
agree.
It simply comes down to personnel
I
and
agree.
the desire and the hunger to go and meet that ball and keep a clean sheet. And the
I
reason
agree.
why I say that, you look at Van Dijk, Matip for Liverpool, who would go and meet every single one of them, and you look how many times we get out jumped. The difference is desire.
I agree. I think it's just personnel. I really think it is just personnel. There's no way that 3 different managers have struggled to
Yeah.
defend set pieces, and Dave even almost threw a fourth one in there as well. Sessegnon against Reguilon. I, I mean, I saw this in the chat, and Dave, like I said, I am almost never the "I told you so" sort of person, but I had said well before this game even happened. I think he even said it on the fan show when I got back, from the Easter and everything. I think I said to people, I said, I am a bit worried that Sessegnon is going to have the same game that Reguilon did against Brighton. I said I expect him to have the same game against Brentford that Reguilon had against Brighton. Everybody thought that Sessegnon, if he was in the team for that Brighton game, things would have been a lot different. He would have done all the things that Reguilon couldn't have. I agree that Reguilon had a bad performance, but I never have agreed that Sessegnon is automatically just better than Reguilon as a left wing back in the system. I don't think Reguilon has been the greatest left wing back that we expected him to be. He's actually weirdly better in a back four than he is in a back five. But to say that Sessegnon is an automatic better than him, I think that last game was a huge proof as to what Sessegnon still needs to work on. Sessegnon, in fact, I would say is better defensively than he is going forward. And that's the concern here, because we did bring him in to be better going forward than he is defensively. So I am kind of confused in that marking as well, because it feels like Reguilon is the one that's actually better going forward after watching the last 2 games. Even still, if you even without even looking at Reguilon's past performances, this is another thing that I feel like we're a bit harsh on Reguilon, because we're forgetting about all the games that he did have a good game where he chopped up 2 assists, where he ended up having, the game-saving play. Like, even think to last season day with Wolves, where he ended up having that moment in the corner where he took it past 2 players, then won the ball, played in a beautiful pass, and Harry Kane or whoever it was who ends up, or is Højbjerg, who ended up like sliding it home. Feels like we forgot a lot about what Reguilon has done. And Sessegnon, for some reason, we've decided to jump on as like the new messiah for left wing back. And I don't know. I just don't see it. I think Sessegnon we could get away with for next season. As same with Reguilon, we could get away with for next season. But I thought this was a game where maybe we learned our lesson that Sessegnon is not head and shoulders better than Reguilon at the left wing back position.
Do you know what, Jack? I'm not even gonna, say anything that you said, because there's no point. What you said is absolutely spot on. But I just do want to add to that. I mean, look, people talk about Reguilon. He's a left back. He's not left wing back. Okay, well then let's talk about Sessegnon. When we signed him. He was playing left wing for Fulham. He was a left winger. Came through the academy as a left winger. In fact, Jose tried playing him at left back. He wasn't good enough, so we loaned him out. So, if we're going to talk about Reguilon not being a left wing back, let's talk about Sessegnon not being a left wing back as well. In fact, for a person that was a left winger, to do what he's done on the ball
this is supposed to be his position that he thinks he's best at. He actually self-identifies as this being his best position.
And to do what he done on the ball, for someone who came through the academy as a left winger, came from Fulham as a left winger, to offer nothing on the ball going forward, I mean, for me, I'd much rather have Reguilon in there.
Red flags.
I'd much rather have him in there.
I think there was this performance from Sessegnon I thought was worse than Reguilon's. I'd even go that far to say, because I thought Brentford, Dave, were nowhere near as good as Brighton were. Like, I think Brighton really did their homework against us and, really gave us a lot, harder things to deal with than Brentford did. I actually thought Brentford were nowhere near as good as Brighton were. So if you ask me, I think Sessegnon had a better opportunity to do well, than Reguilon did. I think Reguilon was actually really targeted, and they basically gave no space for Reguilon to work. But we still criticized Reguilon, as we should, because we said, what, he still could have done better, still could have done a lot more, and we criticized him for it. But when it came to Sessegnon after the Brentford game, I have still yet to hear any sort of criticism about Sessegnon's performance, which I thought was, if I'll be honest, Dave, Dyer and his, I thought were the worst performances on the pitch, him and Dyer, genuinely. So I hope that maybe we sort of hold back before we say that Reguilon is, worse than Sessegnon at left wing back. I actually think it's a bit of a toss up at this moment. I think it's a bit of a flip of a coin. I heard someone say that the other day, that, it's a bit of a flip of a coin between the two. And I think I would agree with that more than I would agree that Sessegnon is automatically better than Reguilon.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Look, for me, I want to see Reguilon back in there. I do think Reguilon is better. Look, I can understand why the conversation came about, because you would say Reguilon had a slight dip in form when Sessegnon was starting to come to form a little bit. But look, just for me, I just think Reguilon offers me more going forward, and that's probably what our problem is right now. It is getting the goals, is creating stuff, is creating shots on target. And for me, I just think Reguilon offers more in that position. But look, guys, there it is.
Just quickly, George. Sorry about that, George. We just wanted to get through the rest of the content there. And George saying, "Come on, Conte, let Stevie P on." It's 0-0, man. Yeah. George, believe me, the substitutions, I feel like people can have free reign with when it comes to Conte. I think the substitutions
only Bergwijn one. Only the Bergwijn one. Not Lucas, not Winks, not Sanchez. You can have free reign when Bergwijn doesn't come on first.
Yeah, I find that to be atrocious. And George, I think you've heard me say this on a few different streams. I wasn't the first on the board, the first on the train that said Bergwijn wasn't given a proper chance. I kind of was a bit hesitant. Do you agree with that? The more I see Stevie B not getting picked first to come on, the more I start to believe those sort of, kind of that sort of logic, because you just start to feel bad for the guy, because people have said, what's he got to do this season? He's actually had a good season with the minutes he's been given. He's actually had a good season. So you just feel like he should be given maybe a bit more. How that actually could happen at this stage of the season, him being given more opportunities, probably would end up coming in like some sort of right wing back sort of role or something like that. Yeah. But I don't know. Like, George, I'm with you, my man. I think he needs to come on earlier. And then as well, just wanted to say hello to Jason Bell, who's also a member. Just wanted to say hello to someone with the badge. And then Where is Sly as well as in the house. Wanted to say hello to Where is Sly in the house as well, Dave, because got the badge as well. Good to see you both.
And Bobby K.
Yes.
Bobby. Good to see you all. And then we have a super chat here from the bottom. It says, Man City made 4 changes to their team in the Champions League semi-final against Madrid. Next time we criticize our manager, let's remember we cannot even make one change from the bench in the league match. Can we just sit here and let people read this for a minute in silence? And I have a minute silence.
I mean, might as well just put this on a plaque, Dave. I think we put this on a plaque for the bottom dude.
No, look, the bottom dude, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, look, I can understand people asking the question, why is Bergwijn not coming off the bench first? Like Jack said, free reign on that, fully understand it. Anything outside of that, I don't want to hear any sort of criticisms, because what I would say to people is put yourself in Conte's position. You're watching Winks week in, week out. You're watching Winks when you have started him, let you down. Do you look at him and go, he's a game changer? If you do, you're being sacked within 3 weeks. Your job is gone as Tottenham manager. So you're not going to do that. You look at Lucas Moura, like, do you know what? I need someone to get on this ball and run at players. Okay, in theory, it's a good idea. But then when you bring Lucas Moura on and you can't even get the ball under control to be able to run at the players, again, if you keep persisting with it, you will be sacked. The only option we have off the bench is Bergwijn. So let's stop asking him to make changes off the bench when we don't have this variety of players to be able to bring in one player and change system or change what we're doing. People are saying, let's change it from the bench. We need a goal. Okay, that's well and good. But the problem isn't scoring the goals. The problem is just creating the goals. Who on that bench is going to create a goal? Is Steven Bergwijn going to create that goal? He's not a creator. He's a finisher. So even then, yes, you can bring on another player that might take a chance. Who's going to give him that chance? Nobody else out there is creating. We can call for Bergwijn to come on first, which I agree with. But then you also have to question, is he the guy to change that game for you in terms of getting on the ball and creating something? He's not. He's not that guy. He's a finisher. What you could do maybe is put him up top and get Kane to drop deep. That's maybe something else. But I agree with you, the bottom doer. Absolutely spot on, my man. Absolutely spot on. But look, guys, we are going to leave it there. We are going to wrap it up because I know everybody wants to go off and watch the Champions League. Thank you to everybody who has tuned in today. I really appreciate it. Thank you to Jack as well for helping put all this together. Absolute superstar. And a massive thank you to everybody who's helped this channel financially today. You have no idea how much it means to us and how much it really does help us out on absolutely everything we do here. Like I said before, we've got no big wigs. We've got no one behind us funding us. So everything that you put in really, really does help the channel. So a massive thank you from that. Get in the comments, guys. Let us know whether you disagree or agree with what we're saying. Let us know if you think there's anything we missed from this tactical breakdown or anything you would like to see coming up in the future. Jack's computer has crashed. No problem, Jack. I'll go off, watch Champions League. Enjoy, my man. I'll wrap this up. But look, guys, we'll see you back here tomorrow. Like, subscribe, and comment. And as always, come on, you Spurs. In Conte we trust. Here we go.